All right, bibbity bobbity boo. I am exhausted. I am exhausted. I am tired. I am grumpy. I'm flipping just like at the end of everything, man. I'm tired. No song. I'm not gonna open it up with a song or anything. I'm just like it's Friday. It's the end of the week. I am tired. I'm just gonna kill some time, wait for some people to come in. How are you? I hope you're having a good Friday. I hope that the end of the week has treated you well. We got a little treat today. I'm gonna have Jessie Golem of UBI Works. She's coming in to talk to us about the basic income as well as the recent protest that they held. She's going to be coming in at around 8 o'clock. That's going to be a little treat for us. Yeah, that's going to be nice. That's going to be nice. I'm unbelievably tired. Went down to the climate change protest held at Queen's Park. Good evening to you, Misty. How are you doing? Good to see you. Went down to the climate change protest at Queen's Park. Lots of people showed up. Way more than I was expecting, actually. If I had to do just sort of a loose count, I would say probably 500 people. Probably 500 people. Bumbleguppy, how you doing, bud? I've got my I finished a cup of coffee here. And now I'm just moving on to standard water here, right? I just gotta. It's a Friday evening stream, guys. It's a Friday evening stream. I feel like the compromise that I'm making for Friday evening, because I've been debating about whether or not I'm going to keep doing Friday evenings, but the compromise that I'm going to do is that Friday evening is going to be more of a fuck around stream. It's going to be more just me fucking around. It's going to be less me being like capitalism and more just kind of me being like capitalism. That's not true though. I've got some great news sources and some news items here that I'll be talking about as we move along. Oh, but yeah, I could definitely use just like an infusion of you know what it really was is that like I went to bed at like a pretty reasonable sad capitalism noises. I went to bed at like a pretty reasonable hour, but my body just decided to get me up at like 4 a.m. just because it wanted to. It was just like 4 a.m. now. Time to just like bing, here you go, and then going down to the climate change protest. And the reality is I know people don't think this of me, but I don't really do well with groups of people. Like you would think that a guy who's like going to protests and covering protests and all this kind of stuff would be like inclined to be like empowered by that, but it's not. It's not. I find it very tiring, especially with like 500-600 people showing up. Yeah, very, very, very impressive number actually. So that was very encouraging. My feeling on it is that we should be done with the marches now. Like we know, like no, we don't need to raise awareness. We don't need to communicate to anybody that like climate change is an important issue. Let's talk about it. Yeah, all this kind of stuff. I think those 500-600 people would have been better served just literally walking into City Hall and gumming up the halls of power. That's how we should be communicating now. Like, be done with this idea of like rah climate change. Yeah, we got to work for our future and down with the fossil fuel industry. Like all of these statements are now truisms in my perspective. That we're no longer attempting to convince anyone. That the people who have not been convinced are a vanishingly small minority who don't think like black people have rights and stuff like this in the first place. So like we don't need to convince these people anymore. We're certainly not convincing the political class. We're certainly not convincing each other. So at this stage in the game, those 500-600 people should literally march into City Hall and occupy City Hall, and refuse to leave until legislation is actually drawn up and something is actually done. That is where we are getting to at this stage in the game. There's There is no hey Ruth, hey POC. Wasn't sure if you'd be here today. I think I said it earlier. POC, the compromise I'm making, is I am going to do Friday stream, but the Friday stream is a gong show. So it's just gonna be a total fuck around. We might talk about movies or music or something. Who the fuck knows what's gonna happen on Fridays? I think that's my compromises, because I rather like doing the streams. I like you guys. I like this whole thing. I'm a very tired bunny. So if you guys are fine with the fact that it's gonna be stupid, then that's fine. And I don't know why this isn't getting off my chest. Usually when I make a statement, when I say something, I can feel it leave my chest. I feel the tension of it leave, but this is not leaving. It's the 500 to 600 people that showed up today. Like, fuck this idea of marching around the city. Like, who gives a fuck about that at all? Marching around the city? Yeah, you know what the political class is doing? They're watching those people go by and they go, huh, and then they continue to ignore climate change completely, right? That's what they're doing. Those 500 to 600 people, we need to get it through everybody's head that marching around the streets is not going to get it done. That these people need to be inside of City Hall, inside of the Parliament, inside of the halls of power, and they need to be marching on the 401. Yeah, Ruth, I think that's right too. Like, we need to be closing this thing down. Like, literally nothing can be done. 0% of anything can actually happen. And we literally need to be inside Doug Ford's office as he is drawing up the climate change legislation. Like, we need to hear him on the phone saying, hey, yeah, you know those 400 projects I cut? Yeah, maybe let's actually do those. Click. Right? I'm over it. We can get, like, literally 500 people out to an event in order to, like, protest climate change. It's time to be inside these politicians' houses. Like this is where I'm at. I would expect that everybody else should be this way too. Like, we literally should not let them be sleeping. Like, we should literally not let them be sleeping. That's how badly we should be hounding them about this. But my concern is that, like, oh, we had a climate rally, yay, and all that energy is just going to diffuse out into the world. I know I'm demanding too much. I know I'm asking too much. You know, it's literally a week ago I'm saying, oh, we all need to be in the streets, and now I'm saying, yeah, we need to be inside their offices. Hey, Mystic Werewolf, how you doing? I'm tired, bud. I'm tired. Yeah, Garden Mice, good to see you too, bud. I know. 3 hours of streaming a day is a lot. It's don't work yourself too hard. And on these days when it's like where I go to an event and then come and stream. So, like, I, like, literally my whole day was like go to the event, wake up way too early because my body was just like 4 a.m. That's a good time to wake up. And then go to an event, come home, talk to my mom. It was lovely to speak with my mom, eat some food, have a nap. Edit the video for tomorrow. Edit a video, and then, like, start the stream. I'm just like, ugh. And tomorrow I'm gonna go do some, like, cafe work, which that's actually gonna be nice. That'll be a nice way to break everything up. So today is Meanwhile, in China, HNA's chairman Chen Fang and CEO Tan Zhengdong were arrested today in China. Communism keeps winning. And on that note, do I have this ready to go? China's central bank rules all crypto transactions are illegal. This is your Dogecoin, your Bitcoin, all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah, great, fantastic. This is a major win for humanity, right? Bitcoin, to maintain Bitcoin, which literally is The stupidest fucking shit ever. It literally just exists so that billionaires can trade sex slaves with one another, without there being any accountability or any taxation or any like trace of what's going on. To maintain Bitcoin requires the same amount of electric production as the country of Argentina, right? The country of Argentina, Bitcoin, same amount of energy production. Fuck no. Like, fuck no. Get rid of this. Like, get rid of this. What the fuck? And so China is basically saying, nah, crypto transactions are illegal. Straight up. Like, if you're doing crypto transactions, not valid transaction. Like, get rid of this shit. So again, communism winning, right? Communism winning. Pretty sure I saw the guy running for Oshawa PPC, Mackey, in my local Tim Hortons. Little story. He did get arrested for refusing to provide vaccine, yeah. But the thing about this story, right? If you guys don't know, that PPC guys are going into Tim Hortons and getting arrested and kicked out and all this kind of stuff. And that actually builds cred. That builds, that's like them martyring themselves to the cause, right? Like we all look at that and go, haha, what a dumb, goofy idiot, right? But the PPC people and the people who are voting PPC, it's bibbity bobbity boo, right? Like they're like, yeah, good stuff. Mystic Werewolf's got some questions to ask. Fantastic. Do you support China invasion of Taiwan? You can't invade your own country. Taiwan is part of China. The North America has created this narrative that says that Taiwan is a separate place, but it isn't. The history, here, let's just open Google Maps so we can actually take a look at this. The history of China is that the ruling class of China lived on Taiwan, right? So you had literally the royalty of China lived on Taiwan. And then the Chinese Communist Party takes over the mainland, right? And they never actually like officially go into Taiwan and like officially overthrow the royalty, right? So they like just don't send their military and they just leave them, right? So the royalty never was deposed in Taiwan. They just were left there powerless, essentially. But this idea that Taiwan is its own independent country, they never declared their independence. They've never separated from China officially ever, right? They have always been part of China. And this idea that they're their own separate country is stupid, right? It's a stupid CIA grift that if you buy into, then you literally don't know anything about what's happening in China. Taiwan is part of China. It's like saying like, the United States invaded the state of Montana. Like you can't invade a state that is yours, right? Like it's their country, it's their territory. And if they are sending military into Taiwan, it is only to quell an insurrection. I mean, Taiwan functions independently like Florida functions independently, right? Like states' rights and all that, right? But like it is part of China. Like it's not an independent country. Like it's its own entity only insofar as like sure they'll send their own team to the Olympics, but like literally anybody can do this. They just don't. So yeah, like China invading Taiwan, so it's not really an invasion. Their oppression of Hong Kong, again, like Hong Kong is their territory, right? Like that we owned, like the British rather, owned Hong Kong. And then per the treaty that was agreed by all parties, it lapsed and Hong Kong transferred over to China. I do have a criticism of China in regards to Hong Kong, which is that I think they're being quite clumsy about this. That there is an independence move. Like literally China looked at Hong Kong and said, you guys do what you want, just don't foment an independence movement. Literally the only rule they said to Hong Kong. Don't foment an independence movement. So what happened in Hong Kong? They fomented an independence movement. Partially because of the CIA, right? There's obvious Western involvement in Hong Kong. Because everybody, like, if you really think about there's never going to be an independent Hong Kong, right? That if Hong Kong becomes quote unquote independent, that means that they're enthralled to Western culture, right? And it's not like and Hong Kong was falling prey to all the neoliberal grifts that we're experiencing here. China is acting in a clumsy way, if you ask me. I think that there are things they could have done differently in Hong Kong. They're taking over of the democratic structures within Hong Kong in order to prevent a vote on the independence movement. I don't think that it's going to work, and in fact, I actually think it's going to continue. It's going to continue exacerbating the problem. But I mean, the truth of the independence movement in Hong Kong is like it's not like it's the people of Hong Kong all rising up all at once and being like, yeah, we want to be independent from the tyrant of China. Like, there are billionaires in Hong Kong and they are spending their money in order to get people into the streets. Like, that's what's going on. And like, again, billionaires are dangerous, right? You shouldn't have them. Like, the CIA is dangerous. It shouldn't exist. And it is certainly backing this independence movement. And of course, because of there's humans and because it's complicated, right, there's also a legitimate independence movement that exists. And so it's and then on top of that, because of the militarization of the South China Sea, America's pivot to China, people always like to talk about China as if it's not in a state of war readiness, right? Like as if it's like living on the moon or something, right? Like the Americans are literally flying planes over Chinese territory, for God's sakes. Like there's serious actions happening in the South China Seas. And so while you can critique China, and I do, that they're acting a little clumsily in regards to ensuring that Hong Kong doesn't vote its way into independence, at the same time, like, you for real think that China should allow an independent, like, American military base? This is exactly what's going to happen. Hong Kong votes for its independence. America puts a military base right there. Really? You think that that's sane? You think that's rational? You think that any nation on the planet is going to accept that arrangement? No. So the Chinese are doing what they need to do in order to ensure that a military base doesn't end up right here. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. And so, is it like, oh, they're thwarting democracy and all this kind of... Yeah, you can lay all those critiques all you want. But the moment you realize, like, yeah, they don't want to get bombed by Americans, the narrative changes a little bit. Plus your thoughts on the lab leak theory. That's shit. That's shit. The lab leak theory is just a way for Americans to deflect introspection into why they fucked everything up. For themselves. There's 600,000 dead, soon to be 700,000 dead of COVID, right? Meanwhile, China has, like, way less than this. Like, China has 1.6 billion people and has, like, I don't even think they made it to 50,000 dead of COVID. I think it might even be less than that of COVID. And they have significantly less cases. So China got control of this thing, right? Did what had to be done in order to control it. Meanwhile, the Americans have like 600,000 dead, like hundreds of thousands of cases, like a massive protest movement, anti-mask movement. Like the whole thing is a catastrophe for the Americans. And instead of asking themselves, why did this happen? They're saying, oh, it was a lab leak. The Chinese made this, and that's their fault, and that's the reason we gotta go over there and bomb them, right? Like that's what's actually happening. Yeah, China COVID deaths just under 5K. Thanks, damn boxes. Thanks. I'm not doing any fact checking today, guys. I'm not doing any fact checking today, so I could really use some fact checkers. But yeah, I mean, most of the narrative that surrounds China, in my view, pretends like China is not in a state of heightened war readiness. They are absolutely in a state of heightened war readiness. They are expecting America to start doing military action against them. They are expecting it. And the idea that they're going to, let Hong Kong be free, let Taiwan become an independent nation, like, no. That is not going to happen. They are not going to let America put a military base here and a military base here. Unacceptable. right? And if you think otherwise, I think there's something fucking wrong with you. I think that there's like a nail in your head. Like, it's completely perfectly reasonable for China to say, yeah, we're not going to let the Americans put military bases like on our border, right? Like, that's just not going to happen. So you can critique them for like, oh, they're being oppressive and all kind of, if you want, but that sort of absolves. It just doesn't acknowledge what's actually happening in the world, right? Which is that the Americans are literally like putting like high level fucking air carriers in the South China Sea, arming Vietnam, arming the Philippines, arming Indonesia, arming Malaysia, arming Papua New Guinea. Like, the Americans are selling weapons to everybody in this region, dude. Like, there is going to be a war here. It's basically inevitable at this point, right? And how do we know there's going to be a war here? Because the Americans keep talking about it. They just recently made an agreement with Australia, the UK, and America specifically so that they can go to war with China, right? Like, they keep releasing articles saying things like how to go to war with China. We should overthrow the Chinese state. We got to get rid of Xi Jinping. We need to foment a coup, right? Like, these are like that. Like, that's not hyperbolic stuff. Those are literal headlines that are coming out of the Australian and American press. So, like, China has every reason to be, like, heightened, ready. No, we're not going to let little pieces break off of us so that the Americans can put military bases near us. Like, that's not going to fucking happen. It's bad enough that they've got to contend with South Korea and Japan, right? And India. Like, that's bad enough. So it's I hope we don't have a fucking war, dude. I hope we don't. I'm so exhausted with this fucking shit. Like we're so fucking thick. We're so fucking thick. Like the full scale destruction of the Middle East wasn't bad enough. And like, Afghanistan has been a complete and total failure in any regard. The only way Afghanistan has not been a failure is if you are a weapons manufacturer. If you're a weapons manufacturer, Afghanistan was very lucrative. You made a ton of money off of bombing innocent civilians and murdering people and dropping bombs in the fucking middle of the desert, right? Like, you made a ton of money exploiting the citizens of the United States, stealing their money through taxation. 50% of their taxes goes directly into, bombing children in the fucking Afghanistan. And now that they've withdrawn from Afghanistan, what happened? China literally 2 days after America withdrew from Afghanistan, China rolled in, and they're literally already building the rail. They're building the rail from the Kashgar prefecture to Kabul. In 5 years' time, Afghanistan is going to look different. It's going to look like a completely different place. The connection that they're doing with Afghanistan is going to shore up relations with Iran, and in very, very, very short order. Like, very short order. Like, you guys are going to be like blistered at how quick it happens. The relationship between China, Afghanistan, Iran, probably Turkey, right? This is going to be a tighter alliance than it ever has been. So it's a complete failure on on a diplomatic level, on a military level, unless you're the guys making the bombs, right? Those are the only people that made out on this. And like, it helps China. China looks great now. Like, if I'm living in Afghanistan, I'm like, oh man, China. Because China's like literally just building fucking rail. They're like building Afghanistan's infrastructure back. Because like, China understands what it's like. China experienced 100 years of humiliation, right? They really understand. Like, they know what poverty looks like. They know what that desperation looks like. And they're doing everything they can to peaceably resolve the shit that's going. And peace with Afghanistan would only help them. Like, all the shit that's going on in Xinjiang is directly tied to what was happening in Afghanistan, right? They want peace in this area. They want peace in this area so badly, and they are willing to pay for it. So it's just like, I just wish the Americans would just stop doing what they're doing. Just like, stop. Just quit it. Just quit it. Like, well, why you got to be this way, man? Like, why can't we regard China as trading partners? Like, why can't we look at them and be like, our neighbor is doing well. How excellent for them. Anywho, let's also do well, right? Like, why can't we have a relationship with China that is comradely? Like, why can't we have a relationship with China that is even friendly? Like, it just drives me fucking crazy how, like, we're always like, no, I'm the best. I'm number one. I gotta be the best. And if I'm not the best, then I'm... That's America. And it's so fucking annoying. Like, it's just annoying. Okay, I gotta stop talking about that. Talking about that. Libertarians brag crypto a state-free currency, but all I ever see is pyramid schemes. Yeah, it is a pyramid scheme. Like, the thing is so fucking stupid. Ugh. The Bolsheviks executed the royalty. Seems they got off easy. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, like, they're on an island. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna take your military. You're gonna build a navy, right? You're gonna, like, get over there, and then you gotta fight a fucking whole protracted war, do a whole thing. Nah, let them have it. They can't do anything. Like, fuck them. Hong Kong is the Western capitalist outpost in Southeast Asia. They aren't going to go quietly, yeah. To be honest, I'm pretty close to believing the lab leak theory, but I do believe American investment is implicated in that. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I don't really investigate the lab leak theory because it's just, I always defer to experts. And anytime I've tuned in to any expert, they go, I mean, it's technically possible. Like, there's like a 1 to 5% chance. But the most likely explanation for what happened is that due to climate change, groups of animals that don't interact with one another typically started to interact with one another and they exchanged diseases. That's usually how this has been going. So I don't see why it would be different this time. And like the idea that it's like, I mean, and if it is a quote unquote lab leak, I mean, it's like, it's not just a Chinese lab, right? It's a Chinese lab that has direct ties to the University of Texas, the University of France, I believe the University of Australia, and as well as universities here in Canada. So it's like a system of international labs that all work together and actually literally take some of these diseases that they work on and put them on fucking planes and shit. So like, it's technically possible, but like literally every expert I have ever seen that is actually an expert and not somebody like fucking Joe Rogan is saying like, yeah, no, this isn't really a thing. Like, I mean, it's technically possible in the same way that it's technically possible for like a nuclear reactor to suddenly like go fully nuclear and there'd be a big fucking mushroom cloud and the whole thing go crazy. That is technically possible, right? But it's just like not what happens. Unless you like actively work to make it happen like they did in Chernobyl. Anytime I investigate Chernobyl, I'm literally like, oh, you guys wanted that to happen. Like, that's the only explanation. Like, I genuinely believe of the Chernobyl disaster that they straight up wanted to see what happened. I can't imagine how else. Like, they like literally thwarted every single safety procedure and the whole thing went fucking tits up. Anyway. There's no such thing as ridiculous questions, Mystic Werewolf. Only ridiculous answers. I got one very ridiculous question. Please don't cringe. But will communism give me a PS5, pizza, GTA 6, UFC, soccer channel? No, I understand what you mean by this. Like, will communism maintain luxury goods, right? Like, is communism just gonna... Are we all gonna live in, like, a state of total death or any of this kind of stuff? And I think that's a completely legitimate statement. And the answer is yes. Like, yes, of course, it would still produce these goods and services, right? The Soviet Union did. China is, right? Like, China literally is the manufacturing base for the whole fucking planet. What communism over capitalism is discussing is who benefits from the outcome of this. Who owns the means of production, right? Like under a capitalist model, when the laborers create your PS5 or your pizza or Grand Theft Auto 6 or the UFC or any of that kind of stuff, when the laborers produce it, well, the primary beneficiaries are the people who do no work, right? The capitalists who just sit around and own all the shares, right? Under a communist system, all of that labor still happens. It's just that the laborers are the primary beneficiaries. That's the difference. So it like this narrative that says communism is not going to produce like luxury goods or any of this kind of stuff, it just doesn't bear out. It's just more propaganda that says like, oh, you're going to be poor and people associate communism with poverty because guess what? It's been countries that have been routinely impoverished by either feudal monarchs or capitalists who overthrow them and then embark on the journey of improving their nation through communism, typically successfully, right? But because you start poor, because you are poor, because you've been exploited for probably hundreds of years, right? People associate communism with poverty, and now we have literally China is going to be very shortly the strongest economy on the planet. The Soviet Union was the strongest economy on the planet. And the idea that these nations are going to remain poor and not produce, like, luxury goods, I mean, I think that's just some CIA shit right there. Imagine when USA sets its sights on Canada. Oh, God, yeah, I know, eh? Well, they don't really need to. Like, we are basically just subservient to them. Like, we are. Like, we're just another state, really. Like Canada is not its own independent nation. It really isn't. Like we do have independence in some regards, but we never really use it. Like if the United States says jump, we say how high. Like that's how it rolls. And if we don't, then typically the United States ropes us in other ways. So for example, when the United States invaded Iraq, we didn't go along with that. But we did sell weapons, right? So we didn't send troops, but we did sell weapons. So like, it's they get us one way or the other, right? They get us one way or the other. But like internationally, like Canada is on the side of Israel in the genocide on the Gaza Strip. We acknowledge Juan Guaido as the interim president of Venezuela, like all the bullshit, right? All the dumb bullshit that comes out of the United States. Canada goes, oh yeah, that's the way it is. I actually recently got banned off of a subreddit, On Guard for Thee, where all the fucking liberals are, because I said there was an article that comes out of the South China Post saying, hey, Chinese Canadians didn't vote conservative they dropped in huge numbers, and that's the truth. They dropped in huge numbers, and I straight up was just like, well, yeah, like the conservatives are the ones walking around talking about the Uyghur genocide. Like they're the ones walking around fomenting a lot of anti-Chinese propaganda right now, and I got banned for saying that. So it's like, oh, okay. So much for free speech in a liberal society, right? That's just not going to happen. Uh-oh. Garden Mice is making good points. There's literally no point in the USA going to war with Canada. Yeah, we already function like an American state, mainly. Like, there are minor differences. Like, there are minor differences, but they're not enough. They're not big enough. Man, imagine high-speed rail and delivery of authentic cuisine from the nations of origin. That'd be so super cool. Hey, Crouching, how you doing, bud? Yeah, that's another point on the on Mystic. You're asking like, will communist nations deliver luxury goods? Like, China has built high-speed rail that embarrasses the West, right? The high-speed rail that it's constructed throughout not only China but into Russia, like the Belt and Road Initiative, like what's my favorite bookmark? My favorite bookmark. Like, this is the Belt and Road Initiative, right? That like this is high-speed rail all the red lines you're seeing, high-speed rail, all the way into Europe, right, all the way into Russia. Now that they are taking more economic responsibility throughout Afghanistan, they're going to send a rail right into Afghanistan, right? This is high-speed rail that can send trains at 300 kilometers an hour, and in some places 600 kilometers per hour. So when people start saying to me like, "Oh, communism, poverty, you're not going to have luxury goods and stuff," I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, literally, what are you talking about? Like, there isn't a single line of high-speed rail like this in the West. It doesn't exist. So, like, what's the story? What's the story, Wishbone? It's the conquest of bread. Habitat loss and climate change will drive disease vectors into human population more and more going forward. Yeah, and also people have been pointing out that our agricultural practices aren't helping either, right? Like you get 10,000 pigs in a swill hole all like living together and torturing them. Yeah, diseases are going to come out of that, right? I'm really into synthesizers, and Soviet-era synths are some of the best. No kidding, really? That's baller, dude. That's baller. I love that you just said that to me. Like, the Soviet-era synths are the ones that... Like, if I didn't know what you were talking about, like with a keyboard synthesizer, I'd be like, the Soviets made robots, synths to walk among us. There's a rise of neo-Nazi alt-right here in the North America. Yeah, your thoughts, solutions, what makes young men join these groups? Now you're getting into the meat and potatoes, dude. Like, that's... Oh, that is like a conversation piece, dude. Holy shit. I don't know if I've got the energy to get into that. Okay, let me see if... Oh, okay. The thing that drives Nazism, without a doubt, and you can read the writings of Adolf Hitler, like he was very upfront about this, like Goebbels was very upfront about this. They understood and they knew that the thing that was driving the Nazi movement was the impoverishment of especially the rural countryside, right? That rural people were being abandoned by the German economy, just in the same way that rural people are being abandoned by the American economy. And the desperation that causes allowed the Nazis to sort of take over politically, right? Because other politicians, liberals especially, would do that thing where they, we'll help you, and then either they wouldn't at all, or the help that they would do would be that piecemeal reform bullshit that liberals like to do, right? And so then along comes Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, and they focus the attention of the populace onto solutions, specifically scapegoating minority groups, right? They're coming to take your jobs, right? All that kind of stuff. So if you actually care about eliminating Nazis in your society, the first thing that you should do is ensure that everyone has a foundation and a floor that they can work off of. Because if you're not economically desperate, if you're not materially poor, if you actually have a floor to stand on, then you may have the same kind of hatred for minority groups that you do usually, but you're going to be way less inclined to actually action them, right? You're going to be way less inclined to actually get into like a little club and wear fucking hoods and shit. Like if you can literally eat and have shelter and everything is fine, then you're going to just kind of grind away on your life, and that's exactly what's going to happen. But it's the abandonment and the desperation, and I mean the solution is, help these people, but America, like the American government is not doing that. These people have been abandoned. They are continuing to be abandoned. There isn't a single political organization in the United States that is actually going, maybe we shouldn't abandon them. And so it makes the rise of like Nazi groups inevitable, like completely inevitable, right? And what makes young men join these hate groups? They've been abandoned completely. Like, I actually have a great deal of sympathy for these neo-Nazis, right? Like, I still think we should bash their fucking heads in, but, like, I have a great deal of sympathy for them. They've been fucking abandoned. We should literally pass large-scale welfare systems in order to ensure that everybody has a floor to stand on, so these guys won't turn to Nazism, right? Like, it's the same argument as, like, why do people turn to crime, right? Because they're fucking poor and desperate. Well, why do people turn to, like, Nazi clubs? Because they're fucking poor and desperate. Like, but, you know, we've fomented a culture of hatred. We've fomented a culture of individualism, which is just a way to abandon one another. That's all it is. All you're saying of your neighbor is, well, you deal with your shit. Well, okay, they will. They'll join a Nazi club, right? Because the Nazis are at least putting forward a solution, right? Oh, your problem isn't isn't massive corporations merging with the state. Your problem is the Jew next door, right? Something that you can action, something that you can do, right? Yeah, I would consider a synthesizer a luxury good. Yeah, we have the illusion of choice here, but when you break it down, only a few companies own everything. It's worse than that, pissed off. It's worse than that, in my view. It's not even a few companies. It's that you have people like David Thompson, for example. He owns like 10% of all of the companies, right? And then someone like Galen Weston owns 10% of all the companies. So you literally have like 10 to 15 billionaires who own all of these companies. They just own 10% of all of them. Right? So even if a company collapses, it doesn't really matter to the owners of the society because their portfolio is literally everything that exists. Speaking of that, good divergence moment. Bell is increasing its data overage rates. How's that, eh? We here in Canada are the most overcharged for the worst service that exists in the developed world. Right? Of all the, in the G20, we pay the most and we get the worst service, and Bell is increasing it. We've got to nationalize this shit. We've got to, strip this shit from these guys. Fuck them. This should be nationalized. Like, the idea that our communication network is not nationalized is fucking embarrassing. Ugh. Ugh. Go away, waterfall. Beautiful waterfall. Capitalists repurpose the consumerist propaganda to make people believe that the crap you never wanted won't be available is hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. United States number 2. Naming a subreddit after a national anthem is cringe. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm banned from it now, so I don't give a fuck. You can say what you want. Ugh. Blind love, far right-wing nationalism is a mess. Yeah. Look at countries like India. Yeah. Hope my questions. No, dude. Please, God, please. Now's the time because I'm shooting from the hip today. You're gonna ask me a question. I'm just gonna be like, bow, 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 bow. Like this. I'm in a very spicy mood right now. Soviet guitar effects can be neat too. Yeah. Soviet guitar effects. Sounds like a cool indie band or something. Soviet guitar effects. Yeah, the NDP needs to put forward policies that directly serve rural folks. Well, you'd think the NDP have bigger problems, dude. Rural folks are not going to vote for a dude in a turban. Like, I know I keep bringing it up, but like, ugh. Because like they're already saying, hey, we should tax the wealthy. We should maintain the systems of support that we've got in place over the pandemic. Like, they're already saying things that actually really would help rural Canadians, specifically Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Albertans, right? But these guys are so absorbed in this idea that, no, you got to bootstrap. True freedom is in selling yourself to corporations. Just get a better job selling yourself to corporations. That's true freedom. I'm a libertarian. I believe that people should be free to sell themselves to billionaires, right? Or starve. That's freedom. It's just like, how about, and like, they can't get over it. Like, that's the thing, is they just can't get over it. The ideology is entrenched. It's an entrenched ideology. But fortunately, the ideology has gone as far as it can. This last election proved that. The conservatives cannot grow. And in fact, if you look at the popular vote, if you look at the popular votes, here's another piece of good news for those of you who are like, woe is me, nothing changed. If you look at the popular votes, all the parties declined in votes except one, the NDP. The NDP picked up votes. Everybody else declined. So in terms of who is actually doing the voting, there is an increase in the amount of votes. But of course, because we have a riding first past the post system, that doesn't translate into seats necessarily. But the party that's growing, by all the numbers, is actually the NDP. So there is good news. There is good news that exists in that election. And one of the big pieces of good news, the conservatives have capped out. Like, they cannot grow past this point. They literally can't. Aaron O'Toole ran a very competent campaign. He had the entire power of the corporate state behind him. They were pushing O'Toole so hard, guys. Like, there was article after article being like, wow, look at how, wow, he's moving it to the left. And oh my goodness, he's really Workers' Party now. And oh, look at the things that Aaron O'Toole is saying. Look at this. Oh man, and then they're like endorsing him. They might as well put like rosebuds in his hair and like made like sprayed perfume on him and like played a little Aaron O'Toole, he's so cool, right? Like they might as well have done that. And we all looked at it and went like, nah. So, like, the conservatives have tapped out. Like, this is how much power they have. They're not getting more than this. And that's enormously good news for Canadians. Like we even had, like, the big anger surge. Remember, everybody's like, oh, we're going to all vote conservative. And then we all looked at who the conservatives are and went, oh, that's fucking right, the conservatives. And then, like, cooled it right down, right? So, like... So that's great news. Like, that's fucking great news. That the Austerity Party, like the mouthpiece of the capitalist death cult, will not seize power. Aaron is more like a leprechaun. He is actually. Hoity-toity. John, you gotta write campaign jingles. Oh yeah, you like that one, eh? Nobody put together that O'Toole rhymes with cool, right? That's how lame he is. That nobody stopped and thought, O'Toole, cool. Yeah, because nobody would buy into that shit. Like, O'Toole might be a lot of things. Cool? No. That'd be so funny if they attempted to run that campaign. O'Toole, like, comes in, he's, like, got a leather jacket on, like, a motorcycle, like, a big fucking, like, shades on. He, like, does, like, a big fucking jump. Takes the dump on Justin Trudeau's face, and it's just like, vote for me, O'Toole, because I'm cool. And we'll all be like, yeah, sick. He's, like, slow walking away from an explosion. I mean, he might as well have run that campaign. I think it would have been the same result. Austerity is driving desperate people to right-wing extremism. What do we do? I got an idea. Austerity. Well, and it's stupid when you think about it, right? Like, the idea that, oh, the economy is stalling, and so the solution is austerity. Like, the more you think about it, the stupider that it gets. Because what you are functionally saying is, okay, so the private sector economy is shrinking and is not actually working. So the thing to do is to take the public sector economy, right, and shrink that too. And somehow that's going to grow the economy. Excuse me? Like, no. It's literally false. Like, it's a paradox. It doesn't actually work. You're going to shrink the public sector economy and somehow that's going to make the private sector economy grow? No, right? All you're doing is if you shrink the public sector, it lets the parasites parasticize the things you're selling off. Austerity is just privatization. That's all it is. And privatization is worse than public models because to justify the existence of the parasite, to pay the parasite, you have to raise prices and reduce wages. Like, you have to. Because the parasite needs money, right? Instead of only trying to compete for urban ridings, yeah. Yeah, the NDP is a very urban. You're right about this. It's a very urban party. Oh, wow. Can you tell? Ugh. The thing that's scary about what's happening in American politics, but also Canadian politics, is this rural versus urban dynamic that is propping up that existed very heavily in Hitler's Germany. We haven't quite got to the point yet where rural folk are starting to drive into cities in order to start fights, which is what Hitler was doing. We're not quite there yet, but like the PPC are like right fucking there. Like they're right fucking there. So we'll see. We don't have a strong enough communist movement to I think warrant that. But again, only time will tell. Only time will tell. Just to remind you guys, at 8 o'clock, Jessie Golem is coming in. She is with UBI Works. Her work is with Humans of the Basic Income. I'm looking forward to talking to her, talking about the recent protests that she spoke at. I had some critical things to say about that protest, but I don't think I'll bring up any of those criticisms with Jessie. I think that she's got some chutzpah, and I think she'll have some really great stuff to say. And frankly, it'll be just really nice to speak with her. Here's your choice. Homeless or prison. Paper or plastic. Murder abroad with military or enter student debt, work or die. Yeah, dude. Not much of a choice, is it? Not only should communications be nationalized, it should be universal. It's a necessity now. Yeah. And, like, we know that it's doable. Like, we know. Like, there's no reason why. Like, imagine living in a society where the internet is just there. It just exists everywhere. You pull out your little device or whatever, and you're just on the internet. You know? Like, I just think that, like, we're this idea that we need to have, and, like, there's so many stupid things going on right now. Like, you see these memes all the time on the internet where people are like, oh yeah, I was on the Pirate Bay and then Netflix came out and I did Netflix and now there's like Crave and Hulu and all the other ones. And so back to the Pirate Bay, right? Like, it's like, get your shit together, man. Get your shit. We're not going to spend like $40 a month to have all of these like different stupid things. Like, that's not what we're going to do. I've never seen a conceptual or principal difference between postal or telephone or computer networks. All telecommunication should be nationalized under the post office. Yeah. Will a blonde-haired Andrea do any better than Ford, though? I mean, seems like Andrea has some compassion, so I can't help but believe that she will. And like, even the liberals were doing better than the Ford administration, dude. Like, I feel like an empty paper bag could do better than the Ford administration. I literally feel like if you had a paper bag and you wrote on it politics and the C was a K, and you drew some eyes on it and then put it in the chair, that would do better than Doug Ford. I met somebody in my university who came from India. He told the horrors, craziness, the toxic right-wing ideology in his country. Can you state in your view everything wrong with nationalist India? I mean, everything wrong. They're falling prey to the same shit, right? The level of poverty that exists in India, like, we complain about poverty here in North America. We don't know what poverty looks like. India has real poverty, like fucking like people living in like dust fields, like literally with like a piece of wood that they sleep under, like begging for coins, just like unbelievable poverty, grinding poverty exists in India. And because the neoliberal model exists in India too, right? You have that hyper disconnection where you have an extreme wealth base and amongst extreme poverty. And what do the extremely poor do? They scapegoat minority groups and get the poor to go attack them, right? Like, it's the same story over and over and over and over again. Like, it's a formula. It's a formula, right? And the neoliberals, like the fascists, they know what the formula is. They understand how it works, and they use it, right? And make sure that the poor are attacking some minority group, some isolated group in the society, so that they don't attack us. It's very straightforward. Like it's very straightforward. Of course, India has its own flavor to it because it's its own place, and I suspect that your university friend probably knows more about it than I do, certainly. But like, that's fundamentally what it is. Like, and again, it flows into sort of my larger point, which is that like extreme wealth is dangerous. It's dangerous to let a small group of people have a lot of money in your society. It's just dangerous. You shouldn't do it. Which is why we should strip all their assets and be done with it. Just get rid of these guys. Literally, if that's all we did, if all we did was just knock the billionaires down and just literally distributed the wealth, or like forced them to actually spend their money or forced them to relocate their money, just doing that would make the society better. Because you wouldn't have sociopaths in your society anymore. Or if they were sociopaths, they certainly wouldn't have the power. Ugh. Aaron O'Toole is a leprechaun, dude. I'm just imagining him with like the tiny hat, right? Like Aaron O'Toole, but with like the tiny little hat and like the fighting Irish kind of look about him. Yeah, he could really pull that off. Only lame people try to be cool, which is why I try to be cool every day. Friday thoughts. Yeah. We need somebody that has the balls to take care of Canada again. Yeah, man. Like, what a fucking mess. Speaking of messes, Ontario says there are now 702 schools in the province with a reported case of COVID. We did it, guys. We did it. Fourth wave. Fourth wave. Fourth wave. Who could have seen this coming? What an unpredictable outcome. What? You're telling me we took all of our children amidst a pandemic and we put them into tight areas, told them, make sure you wear your masks, kids who definitely follow rules 100% of the time, and also said, no, you don't need to mandate vaccines, and suddenly now most of the schools have COVID in them? I fucking hate the passport. What do you got? Passport? Inoculation records, like vaccination records. You mean? Like it's just like passport. I don't know, what the fuck is wrong with us, man? Like, that's so stupid. That's some like fucking far right. Like that comes out of fucking 4chan, dude. That's what that is. Some fucking 4chan troll started saying, like, people started saying, like, hey, we should have vaccination records. And they started saying, whoa, you mean a passport? Like it's like papers, please? Like it's like Russia? And then the passport thing just stuck. And all these idiots just started saying, I'm not going to live like I'm in Nazi Germany, like papers, please. I don't know if you ask me for a record. When literally we've been doing exactly this for a century. We've literally had vaccination records for a century. It's not even new. It's not even new. It's literally the system we've had the whole time. And these guys are just like, it's a vaccination passport and all my rights. You're infringing on my freedom. Just wait what happens when these guys get to, like, driving. Like, well, what do you mean I have a piece of paper that says I know how to drive? I don't need to do the test. I've been driving since I was in my grandpappy's grandpappy. Yeah, had to have all my vaccine records to move to another public school back in the 70s. Yeah, because it's fucking normal. Like, it's just completely fucking normal. Like, and this idea that these guys are sitting there like, oh, they're gonna take all our records and all, like if you watch like a show like Parks and Rec, right? Like Ron Swanson, who's like, I'm all about privacy and the government shouldn't know anything about me and all this kind of stuff. But like, literally, they never address the fact that he has a driver's license. Right? Ron Swanson drives. That means the government has his information. Right? Everyone agrees. There isn't a single person alive that is standing up and saying we should get rid of driver's licenses. But like, you literally give them your home address, you literally give them your information, your name, they take a picture of you, they put it on the card, it's in your file, it's on your record, the government has it, they know where you are, they know what kind of car you drive. Like, oh no, it's the collapse of civilization! Yet there are cameras everywhere. You can't leave a country without a passport. You can't even drive from point A to point B without a driver's license. But vaccine records, that's where I draw the line, right? The government can know everything about me. And I'll also give my information to Facebook for free, right? Like, I'll have vaccine records. I'll have a passport. I'll have a driver's license. I'll have a health card. But this one time in the middle of a pandemic, that's too much. That's too much. And I feel really bad. Who I really feel bad for are the people who who actually don't know any better, right? Like there are people who how to say this as nice as possible. Well, we're all friends here and it's Friday. There are people in the world who are just genuinely dumb, right? They are, right? And they're not gonna get the big degree. They're not gonna do a big intellectual thing. That's not gonna happen. They're here and God bless them. They're living in the world, but they're just dumb, right? That's who they are. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just what the fates have bestowed upon them. And we have allowed enormous multinational corporations to spend billions of dollars to gaslight these people, right? What did we think was going to happen? What did we think was going to happen? My kids needed new shots because Quebec English School Board lost them. Fucking dicks. That's such bullshit. Seems like the distance between the eyewitness horror of polio, smallpox, and measles, the more people are looking at it like it's some kind of option and not get out of my way, I need that vaccine. I just think that they've been gaslit. That there are large multinational corporations and psychopaths who are more interested in selling them ivermectin, right? And even if ivermectin is you got COVID and here's a treatment that actually can help you recover from COVID. Well, you know what would fucking help you not have to deal with COVID in the first place? A vaccine, right? I just think that there's a lot of salesmen in the conversation who have a vested interest in gaslighting people who don't know any better and can't know any better, right? That is ultimately the great sin of Western civilization, that we permitted large-scale institutions to lie to its own citizenry. And now they've lost control of it, right? They've lost control of it. That the lies are so aggressive, and nobody knows who to believe, nobody knows who to listen to, nobody knows who to turn to, right? And they've landed on somebody like fucking Donald Trump, right? Which, who predicted that shit? Right? But that's why you don't allow large-scale institutions to lie in your society, because it creates chaos. Because people who don't know any better and can't know any better will start to glom on to very, very cynical, manipulative, gaslighting people. Right? That's what's happened. That's what's happened. The whole QAnon movement, that's exactly who they are. That's exactly who they are. If you watch I remember I watched the Q Into the Storm. It's this documentary where there's this fellow who, right at the beginning of the QAnon movement, he started to see, he would go to Republican rallies and he would see people with these Qs. And so he immediately started investigating, who is Q? What is this? Let's dig a little deeper. And the people that he interviewed right at the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, these guys are he's literally interviewing a dude, and the dude's looking at him yeah, so I went onto the internet and I don't really pay any attention to politics, but I was looking at what's going on. I thought this isn't right what's happening, it's not right what's happening, and like he'd turn and look at his wife, and his wife would be like, yeah, that's right, it's not right what's going on, it's not right what's going on. Yeah, so I found this group on the internet, and they were saying all kinds of things, and like these people are good people, they're kind-hearted, genuine. Like when you think about it, it's actually quite sweet. They see that something has gone wrong. They don't know who to turn to, and they've been shysted. But they don't know they've been shysted, and who can tell them they've been shysted? The people they don't believe anymore? They don't believe the mainstream media, right? Who's going to tell them they've been shysted so that they'll believe it, right? And like it's sad. It's sad and it's heartbreaking. My last girlfriend, I would read her bedtime stories. I would read her best, and I would use voices. I read the entire Harry Potter series out loud to her, with voices and everything, right? Like Snape and Voldemort and Dumbledore. Yeah. Hagrid. Oh yeah, Hagrid was great. Hagrid was great. You're a wizard, Harry! Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, most people are when they find out that I did that. And then they ask her, why did you two break up? And then she goes, I'm a lesbian. Sometimes we still get together and I read her a story. It's nice. Sometimes it's why I read the articles to you guys, because like I like doing it. I like reading out loud. It's nice. It's fun to do. It's fun to do. And who knows? Maybe I'll turn Friday into. Oh yeah, and I still do love her. Like she's a beautiful person who deserves nothing but good things in her life. It's just she can't be my partner anymore. Like there's just a few missed connections. Good luck, Misty. Bumbleguppy, you're saying first of all, Mocked, that's just the nanobots speaking. Yeah, that's what a great comment, dude. Exactly, it's just the nanobots. Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. I feel like if we had nanobots inside of us, we'd be better. Don't you think? Like, we wouldn't be so fat. We wouldn't be so stupid. You gotta think that things would be better if the nanobots were in charge. Don't you think? I don't know. If I were Q, I would have had all these people knock over liquor stores and send me the money in a paper bag. Really missed an opportunity there. Yeah, dude, you're onto something there. You're onto something. Donald Trump wants me to send him money in a paper bag. Yeah. My favorite voice to do. I rarely use it, but my favorite voice to do is this guy right here. I don't get to use him. I don't get to use this guy that often because people really get sad when I use this voice because I always end up using him for bad situations. Because he's like, oh no! like he's such a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, just living his life and doing all that kind of stuff. Oh no! And then something happens. And oh no! Yeah, our jobs to be Alexa or Siri. Yeah, exactly. My nanobots need to step up on my eyesight, man. Yeah. You tell me. Oh yeah, Don Knotts. Yeah, a little bit. Don Knotts. He was Three's Company, right? Don Knotts. Hold on. Yeah. He was the guy that was always coming in and trying to catch Jack. Or John Ritter. John Ritter's character, who was pretending to be gay the whole time, and Don Knotts would come in and try to, and they'd have to hide the whole thing. Anyway. Don Knotts. Oh, God bless him. God bless him. Sheriff Barney Fife on the Andy Griffith Show. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a waste of so much money putting nanobots in vaccines and then giving them away for free. Exactly. Exactly, dude. Why do it? Why do it? All right. What do we got? Oh, yeah. Here's a good one. SpaceX is promising the Pentagon 1 hour weapon delivery around the globe. You dumb motherfuckers really thought all this shit was to go to Mars? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, dude, I would love to see shows like Three's Company or MASH. I would love to see MASH. Don't you think a modern day MASH would be really poignant right now? Like, imagine they did like a modern day MASH, except it was in Afghanistan, right? At like now that we're in like a post Afghanistan period, do a show like MASH where all of the guys that are working in this like medical kind of thing know how pointless this fucking war is, and they're constantly confronted with just the absurd bullshit that occurred throughout the Afghanistan war. I feel like a show like MASH right now would be the most popular show in the nation for sure, because like it's the absurdity of it. The absurdity of the Afghanistan war, like it can never be overstated, right? Spent $2 trillion over fucking 20 years to do nothing, to literally just blow up nothing, and ruin an entire generation of people. Yeah, you're right about that, Ruth. Directors would mess it up. They would somehow turn it into like a pro-American kind of thing. Like, this is how you know we've gone off the deep end, though, right? We've gone off the deep end because a show like MASH couldn't exist anymore, right? MASH was very explicitly anti-imperialist. It was very explicitly anti-military. It was anti-war. And there was a lot of political incorrectness on MASH, for sure. I mean, for goodness sake, somebody like, what was his name? Trigger? The fellow that dressed like a woman the entire time. Like, that wouldn't fly, right? That wouldn't fly. Even though, like, I feel like that character was well argued and had a point, right? It was he was a very poignant character in and of himself, even though he was capturing the absurdity of the situation almost completely. Klinger, yeah, that's right. I had the cadence, but not the right kind of thing. Klinger really are like, just as a figure, articulated very cleanly the madness of war. That here's a dude walking around dressed like a woman, not because he's gay or trans or anything, but just because this is how he's coping, essentially, with the insanity of this thing. And literally everybody was just like, yeah, it's just Klinger. Like, what are you going to do? Right? I actually think it would be really great having, like, a trans character like that on a show like MASH, and just everybody being like, yeah, it's just Klinger, don't worry about it. You know? Because to me, that's the great success. Whenever I watch... I'm going to wade into the weeds a little bit on the LGBTQ stuff here, and I'm sure that I'm going to get pinged back on it, but I'm still going to say it, which is, I think the greatest success of for the LGBT community would be having an LGBTQ character who just like never really, it's not really an issue, right? That would be the great success. That just like there's a gay character and the character, like, they're going on, and it's not like first scene he's in, he's like, hello, I'm the gay character. He's just like a dude walking around being a dude, and then like in the middle of season 2 or something, he introduces his partner, and his partner's another guy, and people go, oh, you're gay, and he goes like, yeah, I just didn't feel the need to tell you, and everybody goes, oh, okay, and they just like fucking move on, and it's not like a big deal, and there isn't like the scene where like they've got to like have the special music and the change in lighting and all that shit. It's just like fucking normal. That would be like the great success. That would be the moment that like, you know, the culture has gotten to a point. Because even today, when they introduce like a bi character or a lesbian character or a gay character or something, we need like a whole... We need like a whole scene. It needs to be like framed, and there needs to be like the discussion and all that kind of stuff. And I understand why that's the case, because it's still like a civil rights issue. It's still like a thing to move forward on. Speaking of civil rights issues, you know what show fucking nailed civil rights issues? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had some fucking tight shit, dude. It had some tight shit. I think the reason why I'm talking about that is I saw somebody walking around the protest and they were wearing a jean jacket that had the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air logo on the back of it. I was just like, that is so fucking cool. Well, that guy's so fucking cool. I think we're getting a lot closer to that scenario in today's TV shows. Yeah, and I think so too. Which is why I feel like we've moved on to things like trans rights. We've moved on to that kind of stuff because we love the, like, what's the most controversial shit. We love that shit. We love that shit. We got to find the most controversial thing and hyper-focus on it. That's who we are. That's who we fucking are. Yeah, get this. 73%. This is coming out of Bloomberg, right? So yeah, not a rag. 73% of Chinese consider China to be democratic. Only 49% of Americans believe the same about the US. That's a problem, eh? Like, anybody else think that that's like a big problem? That only like 49%, less than half of Americans, think that America is actually a democracy? Like, it feels concerning. Yeah, don't you feel? I feel like a little unsettled by that. I mean, at least, I don't know, at least they're being honest. Like, the American democracy such that it exists is so, like, groomed. It's so groomed, right? Like, on the Republican side of things, it's so, like, the whole system is so awash with money that it doesn't fucking matter what your opinion is, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the opinion of the populace literally doesn't matter. It's the opinion of the billionaire class. That's what matters. And for God's sakes, like, the Democratic Party has, like, a superdelegate system. Like, ugh. But when you have a home and food, I could see that way of thinking. Yeah. That's why I love Steven Universe. Mostly all the characters on the show are gay or poly. It's never addressed in the show. I don't know Steven Universe. I feel like that might be before my time, after my time. I literally don't know a thing about Steven Universe. Like, I don't even know when that is in the timeline. Steven Universe. 2013. Oh, so it's fairly recent. Oh, yeah, okay. This is just one of these shows that I literally missed. Yeah, all right. Very popular. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Holy shit. 49% of U.S. people are asleep. Dude, if 49% of U.S. people were asleep, I think that would be better. I think people would be better off if half the nation was literally asleep. You got an entire lower leg tattoo to the characters? Holy crow. That's, what the hell did I just say there? Holy crow? It's like crap and cow at the same time. I did it, guys. I did it. So, Dick's Burger in Seattle just upped its minimum wage to $19. It gives workers free healthcare, 3 weeks paid vacation, 50% 401k match, and a $9,000 for tuition and childcare. Its basic burger costs $1.80. But I was told that paying people a living wage would make burgers cost $20. It turns out, if you raise wages, right, what people do is they spend those wages in businesses. If you suppress wages, people cannot spend money in businesses, and your economy collapses. If you raise wages, people spend their money. Easy, very simple. Easy, very simple. This is a big problem with, like, the whole individualism line, is that if you're so focused on yourself, you lose the capacity to understand that you're in a system, right? And that, like, this is why I wish we would actually teach kids what the system looks like so that they understood that it's a system in the first place. You can't actually do that, because if you taught kids what the system looks like, the first thing they would do would be to fucking vote to change it. Like, nobody would go along with this system. Like, if you explain this system to somebody and said, yeah, that's the system that you're going to live under, everybody would be like, that's fucking stupid. And my response to that would be like, yes, isn't it? But so you just keep them unaware of the system, and you convince them that, oh, it's just individuals individualizing their individualism, right? And you don't need to deal with it. Hey, Aga, how you doing? But sleep isn't the word I wanted to use, but my comment didn't go through. I wanted to comment on the process by which one cranial matter is cleansed with soap and water. I wanted to comment on the process by which one cranial matter, one brain, is cleansed with soap and water. I feel like I'm like reading a crypto puzzle. Like, what is the process by which one cranial matter is cleansed with soap and water? Brainwashing. That's how fucking tired I am, dude. That's how fucking tired I am right now. That I'm literally like, rinse, wash. Your one cranial matter. So like, brain is cleansed with so. That's where I am right now, guys. That's where I am right now. We can't teach a kid how to wear a mask if the teachers can't do it. Yeah, I know, right? It's like kids are not well known for their rebellion, right? Kids are known for cooperating, right? Yeah, Bumbleguffy, you got me, dude. You definitely got me. It's like just this symbol with the sound of like a dial-up modem. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. So here is actually an interesting post. If you guys don't know who Caleb Maupin is, he is like a rising star in the communist far left in America. So he's on like the real road in America, right? And here's a comment, because he's talking about, and I talk about this occasionally, about how YouTube works against leftists. And so here's a post that somebody put on one of his videos. There is definitely some validity to the claims that YouTube is working against your streams. I didn't even get a notification about this one, and to add to that, your channel is the only one whose notifications automatically go to my spam folder in my email, no matter how many times I mark it as not spam. And as I was typing this, I realized how the notification bell had been turned off, which I know I didn't do. So to everyone else, if you like what Caleb has to say, please check that notification bell every time. Good opportunity. You know, like, share, subscribe, hit all the bells, hit all the whistles, maybe donate some money, right? Oh, what'd I do? But yeah, like, I do think that the first line of McCarthyism against the rising left is to simply shadow ban, is to simply make it so that, oh, sure, they can post streams and do all this kind of stuff, but we're not going to connect them to anybody. We're not going to recommend them. We're not going to spread them around. We're not going to let them get into the algorithm and have anything. I don't know exactly how truthful that is, because there are YouTubers who have like there was that one fellow, I forget his name offhand, but he went from having like 3,000 followers to having like 30,000 followers in the space of a week. That he just made a video that like really hit the algorithm and everything just went for him. So it's so I am of two minds of it, but I wouldn't be shocked at all to find out that leftists just get shadow banned, because they're like, we're a threat. We're a threat to corporate power. Like, really, like, think about, like, yeah, you think that like a corporate entity is not going to shadow ban people who are saying we should nationalize corporate entities like YouTube? Like, I feel like if I was, an evil corporate owner, I would literally say, if someone says the word nationalize, deprioritize them. Yep. Deleting comments, demonetization, hiding algorithm, automatic bot replies, not notifying subscribers. Yeah. All that shit. Like, I think that's like, but what's interesting about all that is I hear all of that, and because my background is theater, do you guys know what the number one marketing force is still, even in the digital world, right? The number one marketing force that exists is still word of mouth. Word of mouth is still the number one way to drive sales. It's still the number one way to drive viewership. It's still the number one way to actually get people to view your content, which is why it's important for you to tell your friends and family, because that is still the number one way to grow any kind of entertainment or any kind of thing, even in the digital land. So when I hear like deleting comments, demonetization, hiding algorithm, automatic bot replies, not notifying subscribers, I'm going to grow anyway. I'm going to grow anyway because the word of mouth is going to be too strong. Because people are tired of this shit. Right? People are tired of this shit. This fucking dumb capitalist nonsense that we're living under. Like, it's so fucking dumb. And the further we get away from it, the stupider it's gonna look. Like, we're literally like gonna look at it and be like, it's gonna be like the same as like, man, I can't believe we literally thought it was a good idea to just let the king's son rule the place. Like, that's fucking stupid. And we're going to think exactly the same way. Capitalism claims it's an economic, but the overwhelming weight of evidence shows it's a political system as well. Well, I mean, the billionaires just take over the political system, right? And it's an inevitability that that's the case. Like, I'll say it over and over again. The mistake the communists and socialists made under FDR is that they didn't force him to destroy the capitalist system. That the capitalists gave everything away except the means of production. And by maintaining the means of production, by allowing the means of production to be maintained in the hands of the capitalist class, the communists and the socialists set everything up for the parasite to take the body public back over, right? Which it did and has. And and so when we get to that place again, where the capitalists are finally beginning to capitulate and finally beginning to make concessions and finally beginning to give stuff away, we should definitely just put our boot on that parasite's neck and squeeze it until it dies. Because if we don't, then our grandchildren are going to be faced with exactly this problem again. And considering that capitalism doesn't actually care if it destroys the entire planet, we should probably eliminate the system that's doing that, right? Like, how many times do we need to face like an extinction event before we're legitimately willing to stand up and be like, maybe not so much with that. Maybe not so much with that. Yeah, democratic socialism thinks putting a muzzle on a rabid dog cures rabies. That's a great way of putting it, dude. That's a great way of putting it. And like, but the only reason democratic socialism exists is because of communism. Because the capitalists understand that they would much rather interact in a democratic socialist society than in a communist one, right? That if the choice is between minor concessions over time or complete removal, they'll choose minor concessions over time. Canada in a nutshell. So here's the article. Breaking: former Nazi death squad member Helmut Oberlander has died at the age of 97. His family says the longtime Waterloo resident died peacefully in his home surrounded by loved ones. Canada in a nutshell. A Nazi war criminal on a global most wanted list argued with Canada for 76 years about whether he should be held accountable and died peacefully in his home surrounded by loved ones. Canada, oh Canada. Oh yeah, oops, I think you accidentally said the thing out loud. So PragerU, which is like a billionaire-funded propaganda network, young people are enamored with anti-racist rhetoric because they think they are fighting racist systems in America. The truth is that they are fighting America itself and the very values the country was founded on. Like, yikes, PragerU. Like, big, big yikes. Like, young people are enamored with anti-racist... all that was fine. All that was fine. Sorry guys, gotta just get set up here with Voice. Okay. I am set up in the voice thing, so when she comes in, that's great. That's fine. That was Iola Stellar, by the way. She's a brilliant Italian politician. Yeah, PragerU has joined us in Taking Back the Discourse. Get this. Today, Canada is boycotting a major UN conference against racism, whose theme is reparations, racial justice, and equality for people of African descent, because a declaration 20 years ago lightly criticized Israel. This is a disgrace. Like, come on. What's going on here in Canada, man? What's going on here in Canada? Canada is just turning into like a total, like what a fucking, I shouldn't even say turning into. Like Canada's always been like a farce, man. Like it's been like a totally fake bullshit. Like I'm so fucking pissed off with Canada. I'm so fucking pissed off with Canada. Like it's just like, the North American love for Israel is really so, like, it's so obvious why we're doing it. Like, it's so obvious why we have this just absolute gaga goo goo for Israel is because it's a military base, right? Like, if Israel wasn't here, right? If there was no Israel, yeah, here in the U.S. we just spent another $1 billion on a missile system. Yeah, exactly. But think about if Israel wasn't here, right? Like, so you would have like literally like Iraq, Syria, Jordan, like Saudi Arabia. These guys would just be interacting with each other and they'd just be dealing with one another, right? Like, how would America actually invade places? How would they actually, where would their foothold be, right? They wouldn't have one. It's like what Joe Biden said, right? He said that if Israel didn't exist, we would have to invent one. Because the Americans need a foothold in the region. Like when they launch into Iraq and destroy Iraq, they do it from Israel, right? When they're launching into Afghanistan, they're doing it from Israel, right? Like Israel's the launch pad. Israel's the stepping off point. Ugh. And it's just, and it's so obvious that's what the case is. And it's especially odd because like you would think that like evangelical Christians wouldn't be like, yeah, Judaism, that's the thing to do, right? You'd think that there would be a bit more of a tension, but they're totally in bed. They're totally in bed. Ugh. Ugh. You know when you get so tired that you're like in pain? You know what I'm talking about? That's how I feel right now. I feel it like right here and right here and like right here. And I'm just like, I'm so happy that you guys are like being so nice to me about that, by the way. It's so nice that you guys are like, oh, John, he's fucking tired. Let's be nice to John. That's right, let's be nice to John. John is a person who we should be nice to. Yeah, they think they're bringing on the second coming. Exactly, man. Exactly. Like all of this end times shit, they're just like, oh, we don't need to prevent that because Jesus is coming. Oh, yeah. That's even worse, Duke. Getting that kind of shit from air pressure, like literally just like the environment itself is just like pressing on you, and that's enough, right? That's enough to make you feel like, ugh. Oh, that's rough. Oh, yeah, if you guys didn't hear about this, so that's true, Misty. Yeah, because we're always so mean to you. Yeah, you guys are usually really mean to me. Fair point. Point taken, Misty. So, Andrea Ocasio-Cortez changed her vote from no to present on Iron Dome at the last minute, and then she starts crying on the floor of representatives, right? So they were voting whether or not to give Israel more funding for their Iron Dome, which is their missile defense system. And she was voting no, and then she changes it from no to present. And then she starts to cry. And there's pictures of her crying in the house over it. And of course people are responding with, Wiping tears from my eyes as I press the big red genocide button. It is a weird moment, like, and it's obvious politicking, right? Because it means that Cortez now will not have to face from the Israel lobby. She won't have to face a question of why she voted no, right? So it's pretty obvious that the Israel lobby lobbied her, and she changed her vote from no to present so that she could say, no, I didn't vote against that legislation, right? Progressives, progressive America, progressive America. It's such a fucking farce, man. It's such a charade. Such a fucking charade. Yeah, why do they behave so? Why do they have so much influence? Why do they have so much influence? Because they've got because they're a military base, dude. Like, really, like this is what's happening. Like, this is what's happening. That this is a military base, right? And Israel will only work with American politicians who are interested in maintaining this military base. They're in bed with the military-industrial complex. They're in bed with major corporate powers, right? Like, America has an enormous vested interest in maintaining the state of Israel. Especially when Russia infiltration of American politics bad 5 years ago. Yeah, the whole Russiagate thing. Ooh. Jimmy Dore and Aaron Matei actually did really, really good work on the Russiagate shit. Just like doing really good work debunking that. So did the Gray Zone. Like, I knew immediately. I knew immediately when they started talking about how, oh, the Russians, they're the reason the election happened. They stole the election. I knew immediately. I was like, what a bunch of bullshit. Like, if you believe that, you'll believe anything. Yeah, they can be expected to reliably use munitions, exactly. Israel isn't even good at persecuting Nazis. Well, I mean, they are Nazis themselves, so I'm not surprised by that. John Ivan Demjanjuk. How's that for a name? John Ivan Demjanjuk was a Ukrainian American who served as a Trawaniki man at a Nazi camp guard. Became the center of a global media petition when he was tried and convicted after being misidentified as Ivan the Terrible. Then, shortly before his death, he was again tried and convicted as an accessory. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to read this whole thing. It seems to me like he's a real piece of shit. The German verdict brought the case to a worthy and just conclusion. After the conviction, he was released. He lived at a German nursing home where he died. Having died before final judgment or appeal under German law, he remains technically innocent. Because he died before he was able to, like... Ugh. Hey, DM, how you doing, bud? I hope you're feeling better, buddy. I hope you're feeling better. I feel like if your depression dissipated, maybe it came over here. Although I'm not depressed. I'm just fucking tired. Breaking news, Bitcoin price sinks as China cracks down on cryptos. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Declares all transactions illegal. So much for Bitcoin. I hope so, dude. I fucking hope so. It's going up again. Once that recession in China passes, they'll take cryptocurrency on again. I don't think so. Because cryptocurrency, it only exists to facilitate the nefarious actions of the billionaire class. And it costs an enormous amount of energy to maintain. To keep Bitcoin going, it takes the same amount of power as the country of Argentina. Like, and if I'm China, I don't see any reason why China should ever accept cryptocurrency. Why would it ever accept cryptocurrency? Why would any country, like any legitimate country, would look at cryptocurrency and be like, no, like we're not going to let you print a secondary currency. Like that's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that a nation would be like, oh yeah, it's totally fine that you have a secondary currency that you use that is outside the national currency. Like, what are you even fucking talking about? And it only exists so that billionaires can do like hey, I've got a bunch of guns and you've got some sex slaves. You want to trade them? That's the reason it exists. There's no other reason for Bitcoin to exist. It's interesting to see that how that shows the increasing power China has too. Yeah. Well, and like it would be one thing if if Laos was like no cryptocurrency, people would be like, Laos, right? But China doing it is like a big fucking deal, right? China has 1.6 billion people. Like it's the manufacturing base for the planet. Like and it's got huge connections with the Belt and Road Initiative and all this crazy shit. And the Americans are like grumbling about it because they were like totally asleep, being like, haha, we're enslaving China, haha. And then China went, by the way, yeah, using my Bitcoin to buy a slave anonymously in Libya as God intended. If God didn't want me to buy a slave in Libya, why did he allow us to destroy Libya? Curious. China has a growing middle class. Yeah, sleeping giants. That's exactly it, Dave. That they're just and like, boy howdy do I hope China doesn't go crazy, right? I hope they don't turn the corner and just become nuts and start blowing things up. That would be nice if China just kind of kept it up with the like building stuff. It'd be really nice if China just kept building stuff. You don't need to blow anything up, dude. Leave that to the Americans. That's their forte. So, got a couple of Ford things here. First, let's start with here's Doug Ford's daughter talking about anti-mask shit. Well, looks like she took it down. That's a shame, because as one would have expected, the Liberal government won last night with a minority, just wasting our tax dollars like they love to do and stripping our freedoms away one day at a time. So just remember to thank a Liberal when we go down the New World Order. She then proceeded to talk about how the Canadian government apparently does not want to release any of their research on COVID-19. She also questioned why deaths in September 2021 are surpassing deaths in September 2020, despite far more people being vaccinated. Is anyone questioning anything, or are you just going to line up and get your booster shots in a few months? She continued. You think it's all going to be movie theaters, restaurants, and gyms? That's the first step. They're going to take it all. Did she literally take it down?
Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. As we could have all expected, the Liberal government won last night with a minority government, just wasting our tax dollars like they absolutely love to do and stripping our freedoms away one day at a time. So just remember to go and thank a Liberal when we...
What liberal? What freedoms are they stripping away? Like that's something that I don't like the freedom to not cooperate with vaccine mandates. Is that the freedom?
Go down the New World Order. And while we're at it, I might as well start talking about the CV. Does anyone question why the government does not want to release any of their research? Is anyone questioning why Israel is their studies are...
I love this talking point. Where they're like, oh, why doesn't the government want to release their research? Because, you dumb fucking idiot, you live in a capitalist society, right? Capitalists do not want to sell their research and development, or do not want to make their research free for everybody to see. They want to sell it. Like, how I don't understand how this is tough for you to understand, right? So your complaint is that, oh, the government's isn't doing capitalism, right? Or is doing capitalism. Like, that's the complaint. The complaint is that the government and their allies are doing capitalism. So, like, are you a pro-capitalist or anti-capitalist? But she doesn't really know, right?
Finding that natural immunity is 13 to plus times more effective than the V's. Is anyone questioning that, or are you just going to line up and get your booster shots in 3 months? Anyone do their research yesterday when I posted the New York Times independent?
All right, I can't listen to this stupid lady walking on her stupid thing, being stupid. Go outside. Walk outside. Sorry, treadmills drive me a little crazy. Okay, here's a good one from Ben Norton. The number of immigrants detained by ICE has increased by 70% under Biden. But have you noticed how media coverage of U.S. abuse of migrants disappeared when Biden became president? Democrats are often not the lesser evil, but rather the more effective evil. The number of immigrants detained by ICE increased by 70 under Biden. Liberals. Yeah, that's about right. That's fucking about right. Well, and this is China isn't even at their height yet. Like, where is the height? Like, where does China end? Right? Because China's actually building. Like, that's the big thing. Like, here in North America, like, we're in this, like, they can't even get a basic infrastructure bill passed to repair what we have currently, right? We can't get bills through to repair what we actually have already, right? And meanwhile, China is like building magna high-speed rail that's like going 400 kilometers an hour, like crazy shit like this. They're shooting rockets at Mars. Like, China shot a rocket at Mars that was so effective that the people at NASA were saying that they did 20 years of work in a single rocket launch. Like, China's gonna like embarrass the shit out of the West. That all America can do is try to get in the way. But the truth of it is that China can build faster than America can bomb. That's the truth of it. Like, America's so fucked. They're absolutely gonna lose this fight. Ugh. They need to make Ford publicly denounce or support what she says. Yeah, that's not going to happen. He's just never going to acknowledge it. Well, and the New World Order is an interesting thing to say because that actually comes from George Bush. Not W, his father, right? George Bush was the guy that was walking around talking about a New World Order, right? Former CIA director George Bush talking about the New World Order. And so, like, what the fuck are you talking about, New World Order? Like, it's like, I do think that, I'm surprised she didn't talk about, like, the Great Reset, you know? The Great Reset is the big scam that everyone's going to buy into, right? The whole thing's going to come tumbling down, there's going to be a big collapse, and everybody will be like, oh, no, this is just the reset. Oh, it's just the reset. Don't worry about it, guys. We're going through a big reset. Everything's going to be fine. Yeah, give it a couple of years, everything will be totally fine. No. Oh, hey, here is actually a really, really good video that really softens my heart in regards to, like, the boomer conversation. Yeah, I'll just play this. It's a couple minutes. No.
Really exist?
Not if you
Us normal people, does retirement really exist?
Not if you're playing by today's rules, because each and every one of you owes the government $86,000 for the privilege of living here, and you have to keep paying till you die, period. And don't come at me about roads unless you've seen this video. And according to this university, minimum wage isn't the only solution. So you gotta understand, boomers were born and raised in a cult. They were born into a system that promised them a program for retirement. But at the time, they didn't know that the system was never designed to pay out. When Social Security was started, the average lifespan was 59 years old. Retirement benefits paid out at 65. They pretty much knew you'd die before you needed the benefit. And that's how the most popular socialist program in America began. But it's been rumored that the money's been stolen or been repurposed. Regardless, people were collecting, so they had to change some things. But just in case, DC organized a massive recession, wiping out a lot of their personal saving. And after the banks reaped the rewards to the tune of $2 trillion, Big Brother bailed out the banks, not the boomers. All the while, boomers lost their homes. It's easy to Monday morning quarterback and paint an entire generation, but aren't they really just the victims here? But you should know, today's retirees' income equals less than $15 an hour. They're not coming out of retirement because they're bored and want to. They're coming out of retirement because their savings has been stolen by the banks. Their pensions are almost worthless now. Their homes have been taken by the banks. The biggest socialist program in America, Social Security, failed them. And inflation is making everything so expensive, they just can't afford to be anymore. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying some of them are cranky old people that want to punish the younger generations. But I am saying, for the most part, y'all have a common enemy. Those same companies that want to pay you $4 or $5 an hour want to pay them $4 and $5 an hour. And if you watch any of my other videos, you'll see those corporations run the government. We live in a giant corporatocracy. And if you need any proof, Look at all the billionaires that got richer while the government shut everything down. They chose the winners. They chose Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. They're giving them billions of your dollars out of your paycheck. Not a single retiree can avoid taxing. The cost of coffee has gone up 33% in the last 2 months. Chicken, beef, even cereal is starting to cost more. So if you really want to retire, find yourself a piece of property in the middle of nowhere. Make some friends nearby. Get great at backyard chickens, backyard goats, gardening, whatever your skill set or hobby might be, and trade with your neighbors. Starve that monster that keeps stealing from all of us.
This narrative that he just finished that up with, right? He's talking about the balkanization of the United States, right? Like, the United States, I got to talk about this all the time. Huge, in some places, majorities, like throughout the southern states, if you're a Republican, 66% of Republicans want to declare independence from the United States. 50% of both Democrats and Republicans in Texas want to declare their separation. In California, it's something like 45% of Democrats want to declare independence. There is 100% in the next 10 years, for sure, going to be a Brexit moment that occurs throughout the United States. Because the United States the federal government is going to continue abandoning its citizens. It's for sure going to continue doing that. It's not going to change what it's doing. And the solution for many people is going to be to just declare independence and get away from this federal government. The balkanization of the United States is coming, for sure. And at this point, I don't think it's avoidable. Like, I think even if suddenly the United States had a big, come to Jesus moment and actually started giving a shit about its citizens, that's a big boat to turn. That's a big boat to turn. A lot of the baby boomers realized that 50 years they spent working to accomplish the American dream, they could have spent living their lives. Yeah, now they've tried coping with it by reassuring themselves that America is the greatest country in the world. And I do think it sort of explains Donald Trump a little bit. People have fucking lost their goddamn minds, right? People have lost their minds, right? People are they don't know what to think. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. They don't know what's happening. And so they're just hitching their wagon to to whatever star is telling them, we're going to make America great again, right? It's just a fantasy. They're just living in this fantasy world, because to do something else that would be really hard, right? To acknowledge that, and it's already quite difficult to acknowledge that America is not great. Yeah, here they all betting on property. Yeah. And that might pay out for some of them, right? That might pay out for some of them. Yeah. I was thinking about balkanization today before stream. I mean, it's pretty clear how it'll go, right? You'll have the southern states, they'll go one way. Texas will probably go its way. California, likely Nevada, Arizona, this group right here, they might actually stick with California. This could become its own group. And then you've got these guys here, and then New York and all this here, right? And each of these will break off into their own confederation and their own kind of system. And we know exactly what happened the last time somebody tried to separate from America, right? We know exactly what happened that last time. We just seem to really love war, right? You ever notice this? You ever notice that we just love war? I can't think of a stupider thing to want to engage in than war. We should just do war. California, Orlando, Nevada, Arizona. Yeah, you're probably right. You are probably right. Keep the have the desert all be one thing. Although that desert's gonna keep spreading. Did anyone see the viral video of a former Walmart employee quitting and announcing on the PA system, letting her feelings known to her managers? Yeah, that was sweet. That was sweet. Walmart employee quits. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's there's a recent one. This sort of thing pops up all the time. So, like, was it Walmart or was it... Like, this isn't the one that was streaming. But whatever, dude. This is still good.
Attention overall shoppers and sales associates. This is an announcement for your store manager, Carrie Ricketts. Carrie, you're a compulsive liar, spineless, racist, and an overall horrible manager. Your work ethic is trash and your management skills are non-existent. I and other employees have called to report you for your rude and racist actions to no avail, and I've had enough. You're genuinely a terrible person, and I'm happy to not be dealing with you or your snake attitude anymore. Thank you for shopping at Ross. Have a lovely day. And I said what I said.
That's so sick, dude. That's the way. Burn those bridges, baby. Burn those bridges. Let's go. Let's go. So, I got 2 articles here from Jacobin that I actually kind of agree with and disagree with simultaneously. So, Canada's pointless election has weakened Justin Trudeau. True, right? Like, Justin Trudeau, I wouldn't be too surprised if Justin Trudeau kind of that he keeps going, but then about a year from now, he just kind of nods the cap and makes way for a new leader to come in. So it's not going to be how the Conservatives are going to do it, where they're actually going to oust O'Toole and then have a leadership thing. That it's Trudeau is going to just like tip the hat and step aside, and then they'll have a leadership thing after that. I think that's probably what's going to happen with Trudeau, because like, I mean, it is sort of stupid, because if he have just like kept things kind of going, right? Like, the snap election is really what hung him ultimately, right? That like it gave Canadians the opportunity to find a reason not to vote for him, right? Pointless election, right? Instead of just like letting it kind of take its natural course, like let the election season come, and then everybody will grumble about it. But Trudeau can just be like, "What? It's the time for an election. I can't do anything about it. Right? It's election time. We gotta vote during election time, right?" It was the fact that it was a snap election that didn't work out for him. We'll see, man. We'll see. It's this next year is gonna be a fun one, dude. It is. It's gonna be fun. If I'm the NDP, can I step back away from sounding like a political intellectual for say and say Justin Trudeau is a giant douche? I think that's still a politically intellectually thing to say. Trudeau is, like, the thing about Trudeau is that he is very dramatic. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you wanted to say it as nicely as you possibly could, he's just very floofy haired, even when he's doing, like, normal shit. Even when he's just, like, I have seen this guy literally just standing in Parliament, and they're going through and, like, doing a vote, right? And everybody is just, like, nodding or raising their hand to vote, and then they sit down. There's just something about the way he is, where, like, he can't just, like, nod or raise his thing and then sit down. He's got to, like, flourish. He's always got to flourish. That's what it is with him. There's always, like, a flourish about everything where he can't just go like this and go down. It's got to be like this, you know? Like, he can't just, like, nod. It's got to be, like, he's got to, like, always add, like, a little, like, floofy, like I just feel like every time I look at this guy do anything, he might as well have, like, a feather, like a literal feather just sticking out of his hair, like 100% of the time. That he's just like he can't just, like, turn and look. He's got to, like, turn and look, you know? Pater Tots Trudeau, the ultimate Peter Pan, and Tinkerbell rolled into one. Think of a wonderful thought. Any happy little thought. Think of rainbows, think of snow, think of sunshine, off you go, and fly up to the sky. You can fly, you can fly, you can fly, you can fly, you can fly. I've seen him fall down the stairs as a party trick on provincial TV. He's a douche. Dude, that is my favorite thing that I have ever seen. Justin Trudeau falling downstairs. This is so hilarious because he nails it. Right? I have a theater background, right? I have a theater background, and so I'm going to show this. And I know that there are people in the chat who have seen me do this before. Too bad. I love it. Check him out. He falls down the stairs. This is a party trick. He does this, and then he just pops back up, and he's like totally fine, right? But if you go through it step by step, you can see how he like nails the shit out of this, right? Like I'm actually impressed. So down he goes. So you can see he's falling on his hip first, right? He's falling on his hip first. He's in total control of this, right? So he falls on his hip. He plants his hand, right? He plants his hand. Right, he's even grabbing hold of the door here to really like slow down his descent. Right, he's got the hand, and then here comes the roll. Right, so he's got the hand, so he's down on the elbow now, right, and now he's bracing himself on this hand. Here comes the roll. Right, rolls right onto his shoulder, nice and comfortable. Right, nice and comfortable, no problem. Down he goes. Here's the most dangerous moment. Right, because he's only planted on his shoulder, so now he needs to find another plant without whacking something or hurting himself. What does he do? He's on his elbow, right? So he rolls down off of his shoulder onto his elbow, right? And now he's literally on his feet. He could literally go from this position to standing, right? But what does he do? He just buckles down, right? And then rolls over, slides over, makes a big show of it, lands on his butt. Right? This is Justin Trudeau's entire political career in like a clip. Right? I'm going to do something that looks chaotic or aggressive or that convinces you that something is happening when in reality something different is happening completely. Right? That he has built into his DNA the ability to bamboozle you. He can convince you that he has fallen down a set of stairs when he has done nothing of the sort. Right? And he's very good at it. It's actually quite impressive. If you saw that happen to you live, like if you were watching a theatrical performance and some dude just fell down a set of stairs right in front of your face, you would be like, holy shit, that's crazy. Right? He's very, very impressive. So if he can bamboozle you on that, he can bamboozle you on lots of things. All right, where? Come on. Oh, Jesse. Good to see you, Jesse. Jesse needs to pop into the voice channel. Jessie Golem is here. She is in the... She's in the chat here, it looks like. She's right there. I'm just imagining her scrambling around trying to find a mic or something. Yeah. Okay, I support Justin now. That was an amazing skill. Yes, exactly. That was the determining factor. I will only vote for leaders who can throw themselves down a set of stairs effectively. If you cannot effectively throw yourself down a set of stairs, not interested. You know what would save his career? Beard. They actually, there's credible evidence to show that the Liberals actually polled people on the beard. And people came back with, no beard. Let's not do the beard. So we're just trying to figure out what's going on with Jesse here. Just trying to figure out what's going on with Jessie here. Hopefully she's not. Jessie, pop into the voice channel. Here she is. Jessie Golem is typing. Jessie Golem is typing. Jessie Golem is typing. Typing, 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 typing. Have a good one, Dave. Yes. On the... Oh, there she is. There she is. Should be able to just start talking, Jessie, if your microphone is good to go. Maybe the fall of Canada can be controlled in a similar way. Yeah. Well, that's what they're trying to do. No, I cannot hear Jessie. I cannot hear you. If you click on your thing, it could be that you are muted or that your mic is off. Sometimes there's a speaker thing on the right hand. Yes, there you go. You clicked it on, then you clicked it off again, or you clicked it off, then clicked it on again. You should be, if you're speaking, if you're, it could be a problem on your end, Jessie. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Could be a problem on your end. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So that's muted. That's deafened. I haven't muted you on this side. You've muted.
Try it. Hello?
There we
Nope.
go. There we go.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah. I know what happened. Okay.
Perfect.
I figured it out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
How you doing today,
It's a-
Jessie?
Good. How are you?
I am going to tell you straight up front here, Jessie. I am flippin' tired. I am like super exhausted. My chat has been very kind to me, but if things go off the rails a little bit, it is because of my exhaustion.
Oh no! I'm sorry to hear that.
That's life for you, isn't it, Jessie?
I'm feeling pretty tired too.
Well, I know
so.
you're teaching music and like traveling all over the place. You're coming down from Oakville.
Yeah, it's been busy.
Been busy.
Yeah.
I suspect. So, Jessie, why don't you do us all a favor and tell us about your work with Humans of Basic Income and the UBI Works?
Sure. Yeah, so Humans of Basic Income is a portrait series I made a couple of years ago. And how I made it was I was on the Ontario Basic Income Pilot, which was a pilot program that the Ontario government, under the leadership of Kathleen Wynne, launched in 2017. And it was meant to be a 3-year pilot, and I was actually on that pilot. So I was using the money to build a business, and it was working out really well. But then the pilot was prematurely canceled because there was an election and a conservative government led by Doug Ford was elected. And he had gone on the record like multiple times, and he had said he wasn't going to cancel the basic income pilot or anything like that. But that's literally the first thing he did was cancel the basic income pilot. So I was furious, and I wanted to know what other people were using their money for. So that sort of propelled my portrait series. So I started asking people and traveling around to other cities and learning what other people were using basic income for. And then I started taking their pictures, and I would get them to hold signs, and I would take their pictures. And from there, like, the portrait series grew very rapidly, and sort of propelled me into the magical world of the basic income movement, both in Canada and internationally. And that's how I sort of got involved with different groups like UBI Works, the Basic Income Canada Network. Back in 2019, I had the opportunity to travel. I went to the North American Basic Income Congress, and I also traveled to India for the Basic Income Earth Congress there. And then since the pandemic, obviously we're not doing a lot of traveling, so I haven't been able to really leave home, but I've still been like doing a lot of virtual connections with people and talking to all levels of people and government and politicians and leaders all about basic income and advocating for it. Especially with the pandemic, it became like very, very relevant very quickly.
So Jessie, let's make it very personal for you. So what was your personal experience while you were on the basic income? How did you find that it changed your life? Did you find that it disincentivized you to work? Did you find that you were sitting around a lot?
Oh God, no, definitely not. I remember the day I got the letter in the mail, and like at that point in time, I had four jobs, and all the jobs were contract work, gig economy, no protections. One of those jobs was a volunteer job for a not-for-profit that really should not be a not-for-profit, just a super exploitative organization that was like, "Oh, we promise we'll pay you one day," but they never did, and they never do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to name that organization if you want.
Yeah, please
But
do. Please do. I'd like to know who to avoid.
Photographers Without Borders.
Oh, Photographers Without Borders. Well,
Stay away. Stay away.
Yeah.
Run for the hills. But yeah, and so like I was working my ass off and barely scraping by and still super stressed, and like I barely had time to like make dinner for myself, or have like home was just a place where I would shower and sleep, and that was pretty much it. And I was still like very much under the poverty line and still poor and still like barely able to afford things. So my very first reaction when I got the letter in the mail telling me I was getting a basic income, I was a little bit underwhelmed, to be honest. I was just kind of like, oh, cool. I gotta go to work, because I was just like so exhausted and just like I didn't have the mental capacity to even think about how my life had changed. And then I went off, worked my multiple jobs, and long like 15-hour day, and at the end of the day I'm driving home. I started thinking to myself, I was like, like thinking about this letter and this and getting a basic income. I just thought, wow, I guess my rent's covered now. Holy shit, my rent is covered. And I just started sobbing in the car, alone by myself, driving home, sobbing about the idea about being able to cover my rent every month. And that huge relief was huge. And then like I was able to like drop down and not have to do these shitty jobs. I was able to focus entirely. Like the one thing I wanted to do was build a photography business. And I hadn't had time to do it, because like any business that you build, there's sort of like a risk factor in building that business, because you got to like be able to afford it. Like you have to afford the financial investment to invest in your business. Like photography, you got to be able to afford the camera and all the equipment and the software that you need, and then like marketing and a website and all that stuff. Like all those costs add up really quickly. Plus your rent and your bills and your phone bill and your car bill and your food, like it all costs a lot. So to dive into starting a business, it's really, really, really hard if you don't have money backing you up. So all those other jobs was trying to get me enough money to support my business, but I was just finding that I was like barely surviving any time, so my business was just stagnated and not growing at all. But then I had a basic income, so I could use that extra time that would have been working my ass off, exhausted at these shitty low paying, or in Photographers Without Borders case, no paying job, and focus entirely on my business. And I could see my business growing. I was actually like booking more clients than I ever had before. I was like, I had I was marketing. I was like finding people all over the place. I was like booking well into next year, and it was like fantastic. And I actually like, did some financial projections and wrote out a business plan. I had a very specific niche of a photography business I was trying to pursue. And I had actually projected that with the rate I was growing, that I would have only been on the basic income pilot for 2 out of the 3 years, because at that point I would have been making more money, and I wouldn't have qualified for the pilot anymore. I would no longer have been living in poverty. I would have been making way more than enough money. I would have been a solid, would have been like solidly nestled in the middle class, happily paying my tax dollars and contributing to the economy in a good way. No, basic income was not a disincentive for me. For me, it was like this like incredible motivator and opportunity to finally see my dreams happen.
Well, and certainly it sounds to me like you're affirming something that I've been saying about the resistance to a basic income, which is that it isn't that they're concerned we won't work; it's that they're concerned we won't work for them. That
and people are like yeah, you're right. It is. We're concerned that we won't work. People won't work for them, and you see it like with like these like restaurants saying oh, we're short staffed or we're closed today because nobody wants to work for us. But it's like, well, we'll work for you if you pay us a living wage, if you give us like proper rights and dignities, and where we're not making pennies just to get assaulted by irate customers every day and get treated like shit and still can't even afford to survive. Like that's just yeah.
So, you mentioned before that you have been speaking with politicians and you've been speaking to try and advocate for the basic income. Which of the parties would you say you feel is most motivated to actually move forward with the basic income? Or what is your analysis or perspective of what's happening with the basic income in our political system?
It's interesting, like in the last, like since the pandemic, basic income became like super, super relevant, really fast, right? So like, yeah, basic, sorry, I was like trying to upload some photos and then they were like saying the file was too big, but I'll do that in a second.
Jesse, just so you know, I'm on your website already and I'm showing people what your work already.
Oh, okay, then don't worry about it. Sweet. Okay, yeah, and then, what I was saying is, yeah, like the political landscape, like, yeah, basic income became super, super relevant right away. And then we saw like, members of the NDP, table bills and motions for basic income. We saw a member of the Liberal Party put forward a private bill for a basic income. And then we also saw the Green Party, put it as part of their election platform, just in this last election. The Liberal Party at their last, Liberal leadership convention made basic income part of their platform. And the NDP is also committed to a basic income. And the Senate, the Canadian Senate, is in huge support of a basic income, or a guaranteed livable income is the language that they like to use the most. So there's a lot of support. I would say, like, I wish the Green Party had a little bit more political influence in Canadian discourse, but it does have a lot of influence. But like they are a huge support of basic income. But I think at this point in time, if there's any party that's going to push a minority liberal government to implement a basic income, it'll be the NDP. And I have faith in that and hopes for that, and would like to hold them accountable to it, including my own MP, Matthew Green, who is the NDP representative for Hamilton Centre and strongly supports basic income.
Well, excellent, excellent. And this is just a comment for my own chat. Guys, if you have a question for Jesse, or you'd like to make a comment or something for me to read out and to talk about, feel free to leave it in, to put it in the chat, and I will definitely bring it up. What I find interesting, Jesse, about what's going on the political kind of stage is the question I continuously ask is, like, especially throughout this last debate, and throughout the last debate, throughout this last election, it seemed as though there was a reluctance even amongst the NDP, especially I noticed, to really put a basic income or a guaranteed livable wage, I think is the language that they use, at the forefront. Why do you think that there is this reluctance to use that kind of language to when it comes time to run a campaign?
I think it's like, I think there's the language or the words I keep on hearing is that there has to be a political will for this to happen. So I wonder if they don't think that there's a strong enough political will. I would disagree with them because of the pandemic and because of like the basic income that was implemented for all intents and purposes in Canada. I also think that maybe there's like a fear of upsetting the status quo or doing something that's like too radical and too different. And basic income is, it is kind of a radical idea, giving everybody an amount of money, but it isn't as radical as people think. I mean, parents can in Canada get the Canada Child Benefit, which is a basic income. Seniors get the guaranteed income supplement for seniors. Like that, those are basic incomes that Canada has, are permanent basic incomes. So I think that they're just sort of scared of rocking the boat a little bit too much and introducing an idea that might be too radical or too weird. And I think those prevailing myths about poverty and about, like the work incentive and all that stuff, and people saying that poor people are parasites, or if you get free money from the government, you're just not going to work, which is just bullshit. And actually studies have shown that people work more, and nobody works less, when receiving a basic income. So, I think it's just, it's fear, really.
And the, of course, the thing that I would point out is it wouldn't be considered radical if we were doing it for a corporation. If it was a corporation receiving something like a basic income, everyone would say, "Oh, well, that's just good economic sense, isn't it?" So
I know.
no, go ahead.
It makes me so mad because, like, we saw, like, a trillionaire shoot a gigantic metal dick into space last summer, and I remarked about this to my uncle, and he was just like, "Oh, well, Jeff Bezos works really hard, and he really earns that." And I was like, "Do you seriously think his hourly wage is equal or worth more than the people who are making minimum wage and getting COVID in his fucking warehouses?" Like, sorry, pardon my language,
that's quite all right. We're not a family show.
Good.
So, Jesse, let me wade into a little bit of weeds here, because the name of the channel is, in fact, the Canadian Commie. We are
Okay.
communist friendly around here. And there is a little bit of criticism that is here in the chat, and also that needs to be recognized, that people say that a basic income still allows capitalists and still allows corporate interests to maintain their power, that it isn't actually a solution to the larger problems that we're facing. What would you say to that?
I've heard that argument before, and it's a good argument, and it's one I kind of agree with. I don't think that a basic income is the be-all and end-all or a silver bullet solution. I do think that it has to come with the intersectionality of, like, holding corporations accountable. I would love to see, I would love to live in a world where there was no capitalism, and where, like, everybody paid their fair share, especially the ultra rich and the wealthy elite who are literally hoarding billions and billions and billions of the world's wealth at literally everybody's expense and suffering. I would like to see those change. So I think that a basic income has to be part of those solutions. Like, I see basic income being an intersectional problem, and I want to, like, talk about basic income at the same time as talking about affordable housing and a living wage and accountability for the rich. I would like to see an accountability for corporations, especially when we're looking at climate change. Like, our future is going to be climate change, and that's all we're like. And what that impact is going to be. So it's almost like we need these kind of bold and decisive actions now. We need these changes now. And I think a basic income is part of that change.
I absolutely agree. I tend to think that it's all well and good to say, if you walk up to an edge of a cliff and say, "Oh, we should put a rail here so that nobody can fall off the edge of the cliff." Well, that's all good. But if somebody has fallen over the side of the cliff and is clinging on, well, the first thing you have to do is get them up. And I think that a basic income sort of facilitates that action. Just so you know, here in the chat, we've got good old Bumblegumpy is saying, "So much of the problems boil down to fighting a story, not people. Protests and Jesse's photo journal are breaking through stories, and that's what's needed." Thanks for that comment, Bumbleguppy. And
Thank you.
And this leads us into an interesting conversation of we both were at the recent basic income protest or rally that was held not that long ago. I know that you spoke there. I didn't have the opportunity. You looked like you were well in it, so I didn't think I would distract you.
I wanted to stay. Unfortunately, I had a really weird thing happen to me on the day before, and I had to, like, move all of my work clients, like I'm a piano teacher, so I had to move all my piano teaching students and teach them on Saturday, as much as I didn't want to, so I was forced to leave early. I basically only had time to, like, go give my little talk and then hop in my car and leave Toronto, and I was angry and sad that I had to leave.
Well, because my experience of that protest was quite strange, I thought that, but I suppose you don't really have too much of a perspective of that, like that they were breaking the group apart, having us kind of march in separate directions, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so they did that mainly because of COVID. They wanted
Okay.
to, they didn't want like UBI Works to get hit with a fine or anything like that if we had like too many people protesting in one group. So we just sought to like break up the protests or the march into waves. And then that way there could be like kind of a continuous wave of people that is like going through Toronto the entire afternoon. And we're still staying socially distanced and safe. It was all purely because of COVID.
Well, and my feedback, I think, on that, Jesse, if you'd like to take it back, is that I literally was in a protest today that had probably at least 600 people in it, and I don't think there was much care for social distancing, and I doubt they received a fine. So I think, but perhaps
Well,
I know,
yeah.
I know. It's
Imagine those are like those anti-vaxxing, anti-masker,
oh yes,
anti,
those
you know.
hopefully that movement starts to calm down a little bit. We'll see.
Oh my God,
we'll see what
I have
happens.
my opinions on that. I'd like this pandemic to be over, and they
wouldn't
like
we
to
all?
keep it going.
Wouldn't we all like it to be over? Yes, it's sort of a funny thing that they're simultaneously protesting an end to it while doing everything they can to continue the pandemic moving on. Yeah, it's quite a thing.
Isn't it ironic? Yeah.
Isn't that ironic? So I've got a comment here, a question perhaps from DM. DM9542 says, "Hi Jesse, since the term basic income is still considered taboo, perhaps an MP from the NDP or Greens should rename it Canadian Citizens Dividend and reintroduce it into a legislative bill."
That's not a bad idea, and I've thought a lot about the language because, yeah, like universal basic income or UBI is a very triggering word, and I avoid using that language. I use basic income just sort of as a blanket statement, but I am actively looking for a different word to use. The Green Party and the Senate both use guaranteed livable income or GLI. They're a big fan of that, and I like that word better. I just think it's a little bit long. Andrew Yang in the United States, like when you were saying Canadian Citizens Dividend, that I was just like, wow, you sound like you're part of the Yang Gang, which is what Andrew Yang supporters call themselves. But he called it a freedom dividend. And he campaigned, like he ran for president with a universal basic income platform they called the Freedom Dividend. And now he's running an organization called the Humanity Forward Fund. And I like those words. Like, I like that branding a lot better. I'm not sure if that's the right branding for Canada. I don't know. I think we're still trying to figure that out.
Now, I am actually quite concerned about the political aspect of this, that much of the, especially coming from the Liberals, much of what we're hearing is just sort of a pandering, right? We're all very familiar with how the Liberals operate. That
Oh my God, I hate it. I hate political pandering, and I hate the rhetoric and the talking in circles but never giving an answer.
And so how much of what do you think we're experiencing is just simply that? Because while the Liberals and the NDP passed the CERB over the pandemic, it seems to me that part of the reason why the Liberals were interested in seizing their majority was so that they could claw that back, which they have already done on more than one occasion. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm really hoping that with a minority government, like, I would like to see CERB established as a permanent recovery benefit or some sort of permanent benefit to help people, a permanent basic income. Why not? I'm really hoping for that. And yeah, like, it's hard to say because, like, I do know that there are very strong members, like liberals that are very strong supporters of basic income, like Julie Jarowitz, who's the one who tabled the private motion, and in the NDP, like supporters like Leah Gazan, who's in at Winnipeg Center, and then my own MP Matthew Green are huge supporters of basic income, and I trust both Leah and Matthew. I've talked to them both. I consider Matt Green a friend of mine, and I trust them and know that they're sincere in what they're doing and in their belief in it, and that, like, and I'd like to believe that the rest of the NDP party stands behind it. Liberals, I'm not so sure, but I also trust in MPs like Julie Jarowitz and Nate Erskine-Smith and their sincerity as well. So I don't know. I think we gotta, like, yeah, they always just keep on saying like there has to be a political will, and I'm like, what more of a political will could we get? We had a pandemic where we literally proved that CERB works, basic income worked, and saved millions of Canadians.
Well, and
Yeah,
and not
the
only
proof
that,
is in the pudding.
we absolutely have we have like the what's it called when you have like a trial and you've got a test group. We have the test group for what happens when you don't pass such legislations. It's called the United States. Like,
I know.
600,000 homeless people. Is this not the proof in the pudding? And
Yeah, exactly.
it seems to me that when they're talking about quote unquote political will, they are talking about something that I talk about an awful lot on this channel, which is that we are going to have to inevitably surround the halls of power, it seems. It seems
Yes.
as though the only option left to us, whether it be climate change or whether it be something like the basic income, we are going to have to gather in large numbers and simply surround the halls of power to get this done. That's the political will that they seem to be talking about.
I agree. I think we just have to surround it with supporters and people who do support it, and like people support it. Like there have been polls done where like over like so many people in so many Canadians support a basic income, and it went from being like, you know, even just in the few years since I launched my portrait series and found myself flung into the basic income movement and in a very weird and influential position in the basic income movement. I've watched basic income grow from like, you know, being like a trendy niche economic issue that, you know, nerds on Reddit like to talk about, and I'm a nerd on Reddit, so I like to talk about it, to being like discussed by all members of government, and to seeing it, you know, seeing every single major news source like covering it and talking about and debating it, and seeing political leaders debating it too and talking about and making it part of their platforms. So like it has grown, and the groundswell of support is there, and I think we just got to like keep that fire lit under their asses and not let anybody forget like how much CERB helped so many people, and how this actually does work. It is proven to work, and how we can build a better world. Like, poverty costs Canadians $80 billion a year, and most of that money is preventable. It's going towards the cost of healthcare for people who are having preventable illnesses that they wouldn't be sick if they weren't in poverty. Like in my own city, I live in Hamilton. The life expectancy between the poorest neighborhood in Hamilton, which is the neighborhood I live in, versus the richest neighborhood in Hamilton, is 20 years. So that's our taxpayer dollars paying for people who are living 20 years less, dying from perfectly preventable health issues that they wouldn't have if they had healthy food or access to safe, affordable housing. Or the same goes with crime, because there's a huge link between poverty and crime, and that's our taxpayer money at work paying for those jail cells for people who wouldn't be committing crimes if they weren't in poverty. So I would rather not spend $80 billion per year on the, you know, mitigating or putting a band-aid on the suffering of people, but rather investing in humanity and building a better world. And I, like, you know, I've seen it. Like I said earlier, there were studies done. And like the studies that I've read looked at basic income trials that happen all over the world. Canada has a history of having 2 basic income pilots. We've had one in the 1970s in rural Manitoba in a small town called Dauphin. And then the one I mentioned earlier that I myself was on, the Ontario Basic Income Pilot. And then they also looked at pilot projects from all over the world, from like United States, Brazil, Finland, India, Uganda, Kenya, Germany, all kinds of places all over the world, different control groups, different lengths of pilots, different amounts of money given out, and the results were shockingly the same. The only people groups that worked less were people that were stay-at-home parents or caregivers to elderly or disabled friends or family members. So they were working because they were caring for their loved ones, or people who chose to go back to school. So they weren't working, they were getting a better education so they could get a better job. So like everybody was working. The work disincentive motivation is just not true. It's literally a myth. It's about as true as trickle-down economics. We all know is bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jesse, I'd like you to know you're inspiring a great deal of conversation and statements in the chat here.
I'm so interested. I wish I could like see this chat.
If you go to my YouTube, you can YouTube the Canadian Commie. You can see the chat. One fellow here, right, a DJ Paradigm Shift, the coordinator of the Basic Income Project, said to me personally that my letters are what brought it to my community. I'm an Indigenous person who has been told I've been lazy my whole life by white colonial settlers.
John.
Yes.
John. I know who Paradigm Shift is.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure if I'm willing to have a conversation with Paradigm Shift at this moment because he hasn't been willing to have a conversation with me in the past. And he's also made some very false and slanderous statements about me on the public forum, so I'm not going to be entertaining any questions from him if that's okay. Thank you.
Fair enough, Jesse. Fair enough. We're all here to be allies with one another and to try to move forward.
I want to be an ally with Michael Bradamore, and if he's willing to talk to me and unblock me and have a conversation, then I will happily talk to him. But until then, I just know where this question's going, and I'm not willing to entertain it.
We're here to be peacemakers with one another, and hopefully that is the first step towards peace. So Jesse,
I am too.
Jesse, let's as we wrap up this conversation, is there anything you'd like to say to my chat, or anything you'd like to just send into the ether? Any message you'd like to end this on?
I'd just like to say that, it's like, I really do believe that we're on our way to building a better world. I have to remain optimistic. It's really hard to be optimistic, especially in these times. And we just came through an incredibly polarizing and divisive election. And we're seeing, I've never seen society so polarizing and so violent as it has been in the last few years. And it's been extraordinarily troubling. And I hope and want to believe and want to continue to fight to build a better world. So I keep on trying to cling to that optimism and to that hope, and that within our lifetimes we can see a basic income, we can see a better and more just world and an equal society. I keep on clinging to that hope and optimism, and that's kind of what keeps me going every day, and I want to encourage people to keep on holding on to that as well.
And is there any place you'd like to send anybody to get involved, or to participate, or to let people know, or to move the project along? Is there any place that people can go to do this?
Yeah, there's Canada's really great. We're very much a leader in the basic income movement. We have organizations like the Basic Income Canada Network and UBI Works, which are fantastic organizations to be involved with. And there's opportunities such as participating in the Basic Income March. In fact, there's going to be the International Basic Income March, which is happening tomorrow. And I'm really, really excited about that. We did a march in Toronto a week early because of the election, wanted to, have that support in time for the federal election. So that's why we didn't join with the international march. But that's happening tomorrow. And yeah, those organizations, there's ways to volunteer and get involved. Honestly, send me a message. If people want to get involved, you can contact me through my website. I'm always happy to be involved. And people, that's happened to me all the time. One time, very recently, a friend of mine, just a random person was like, I'm an artist. I want to get involved in the basic income movement. How can I get involved? And then I linked her up to a couple of other artists and supporters I know of basic income. And then they were able to organize and plan events for basic income and start a Toronto Artists for Basic Income support group and have been advocating and doing that kind of work. So there's always ways. And I love connecting people. And I know a lot of people. So I'm happy to connect those people. And yeah, so just please drop me a message. Another project I kind of want to talk about that I'm involved with is, and I'm hoping that there are people who are listening that might be part of organizations or communities that can benefit from this. It's called the Green Resilience Project, and I'm gonna just put the link in, send it over to John if he wants to put it in the Discord. Or I don't know how this stuff works. I really don't.
No, that's wonderful.
The Green Resilience Project, we are actively looking for communities across Canada, and we want to have conversations about climate change the economic impacts and community resilience. And this is a project that's sponsored by the Basic Income Canada Network and the Energy Mix. So we're looking at like, what is the impact of climate change on these communities? We want to talk to communities all across Canada. Like we want to talk to oil field workers in Alberta. We want to talk to Indigenous communities in the north. We want to talk to people, land defenders in BC. We want to talk to fishermen in Nova Scotia. Like we want to talk to everybody, as many people as we can. So we're actively looking for communities and organizations to be partners with us right now. So there's our website. It's greenresilience.ca. I would encourage you to check that out. We also have an Instagram. It's just Green Resilience CA. And yeah, please check it out. Feel free to email me if you might be a community that might be interested, or if you know of a community that would be interested. And I would love to talk to you more.
Well, and that's the true danger of the basic income. Suddenly you'll have a whole bunch of people who can be politically active with their time, right? Isn't that the way?
Exactly.
Well, Jesse, thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us today about the basic income. And my pleasure. If you know anybody who you think would be good to be interviewed on the show, please shuffle them my way. I'll absolutely platform people who are in the leftist movement who are trying to push forward for a better, more progressive Canada.
I love it. And I can already think of a few people. We'll be talking soon, John.
Fantastic.
We definitely will be.
And
awesome.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
Great. Thanks so much, John.
Have a good one.
Thanks. Yeah, you too. See ya.
Well, sorry about the spam there. That was sudden and odd, wasn't it? How many of these guys? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow. 9 people all at once came in and wow, 9 of them, eh? American Patriot, Deus Vult, oh yeah. But, all right, forget about the fascists. Unbelievable. So that was Jesse. I tend to believe that Jesse is really fighting for improving Canada, for improving what's going on here. And DJ, I want to say straight to you, bud, I can sense your passion, and I can sense kind of the drama that's going underneath, and I just want to encourage you to reach out and seek to mend fences, because I think that Jesse and you could be allies with one another and could work together. I don't know what the story is, and I don't care to open that can of worms here. I just want to encourage you to move forward and find peace with that situation. So I hope you do, bud. I hope you do, because it's we need all the friends and allies we can get these days, and someone like Jesse Golem, who I think acknowledges the weaknesses of a basic income, which I think we all do acknowledge here in this communist space, that a basic income is not a silver bullet. It is a band-aid on a system that is itself dying. But that it is a method to act as a stepping stone up from where we're at right now. And I actually found these photos are quite powerful, I feel. Just the photos of the people who have been directly impacted. Just a brief picture of the story. Bumbleguppy, I think you said it earlier, that these stories and these photos really do break through, and they break the lie. They create a human face, a humanity to what's going on, right? That it removes the fact that, like, these people are not numbers. They're not figures, right? That when you say something like there's 600,000 homeless people, well, 600,000 homeless people is just a number. It's just a figure. But when you see these people and you see the impact that these stories are having on their regular lives, and you see their faces and you see them as the humans that they are, it's very impactful. And it's good to know that she's pivoting from the basic income, it looks like, into more climate change related work, because, let's be honest, we are all going to be climate change warriors at some point. There's one of the guys in the picture died because his basic income was taken away. Jesus Christ. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. People have hearts and minds, but propaganda we're awash in just doesn't. Well, and does everything it can to make it worse. Hi there, TRX. You came in earlier. I don't know if I've ever seen you here before. Your timing was a bit odd. You came in right kind of at the beginning of the interview. Luminal man, good to see you, bud. Why do I defend communism, a system that murdered millions of people? Stop paying attention to the CIA, bud. Like capitalism is very flawed, but it works. That's very funny. That's very funny. Like we're in the middle of what, the third or fourth collapse of capitalism within our lifetimes. And I mean, it works how? By invading the Middle East? Is that how it works? It works by going into nations like South America and destroying their economies and destroying their people and stealing their resources. It works by destroying Iraq, Afghanistan, right? Yeah, there's literally a genocide going on in Yemen right now. The destruction of Libya is one of the greatest war crimes of the century. Literally taking a society that was a functioning socialist society that was improving itself, that was increasing literacy rates, reducing poverty, eliminating homelessness, and now has open slave trade markets. Like, that's capitalism working? Oh, okay, bud. Interesting. Like, interesting perspective. Like that, a system that literally started by taking the feudal serfs yeah, of course Libya was socialist. Under Gaddafi, it absolutely was a socialist state, bud. Like, I mean, at this point, I've got to tell you to go read a book. Like, real straightforward. Literally, capitalism begins by taking feudal serfs, forcing them off of their land that they'd been on for hundreds of years, into drafting them into wars, sending them into Africa in order to enslave black people, right? Taking those black slaves, sending them to the United States in order to commit a genocide against the First Nations people. I mean, throughout the South American continent, literally, there are civilizations that were wiped out by capitalists. Like the Aztec Empire was completely wiped out. The Mayan Empire was wiped out. The Incan Empire was completely wiped out. These are mass-scale genocides. What do I think about tankies? So define tanky, please, because I have come to find that there are many different definitions of tanky. That when people generally call me a tanky, they're using it just as a slander. Like, they're just like communist, but I choose to use this words. Yeah, the Spaniards were capitalists too, bud. Like, it wasn't like this whole area became capitalist through this process. And fine, even if I concede on that, there was still a mass genocide that occurred throughout the United States. Like, the genocide of the First Nations people is extremely well documented and extremely well understood. This is how capitalism began. The United States was built by black slaves, right? Like, capitalism requires slavery. It's a system that if slavery didn't exist, neither would capitalism. Like, this is your working system, right? Meanwhile, like, you take a look at Soviet Russia. Like, people like yourself, I'm sure, say things like, oh, communism never works and all that kind of stuff. It's like, literally, the Soviet Russians defeated the Nazis and were the first people into space, right? Like, it's kind of incoherent, in my view. Like, and I mean, for God's sakes, right now, China, which calls itself socialist with Chinese characteristics, has high-speed rail all throughout the continent, right? It's literally building a high-speed rail trade network with high-speed rail that we don't have. Like, it's ahead of us in technology in ways that are incredible, and it's incredibly baffling when people say to me that communism doesn't work. And as to the comment that, like, communism murders millions of people, like, I'm sure you're talking about the famines, because that's the talking point, right? China is doing a genocide in Xinjiang. Oh, stop listening to the CIA, bud. Stop listening to the CIA. I mean, I could go into the whole thing, but just stop listening to the CIA. Like, any source that you want to go find Adrian Zen's Radio Free Asia, the National Endowment for Democracy, in the text. A UN report? There is no UN report, bud. The quote-unquote UN report, which is often misrepresented, was literally one person in a UN panel making an offhanded comment or an offhanded claim. It's never actually been verified, and in fact, anytime a UN delegation actually goes into the Xinjiang province, upwards of 30 have, they come out saying that it is not a genocide. Literally any third-party organization that has gone into Xinjiang walks out saying it's not a genocide. Pakistan sent diplomats. The World Bank itself has gone in. The UN is actually sending an official delegate into this. The BBC sent a film crew. You can go watch the documentary. They didn't find a genocide. I mean, dude, you think capitalism works. Like, you're in denial, bud. Like, you're in denial. The first stage of grief is denial. That's just the hard truth of it. Like, please stop listening to the CIA. It's amazing that people like you will say, I don't trust the media except when it comes to China, right? Like, that's the amazing truth of what you're saying to me right now. Like, oh, I don't trust the media, they're all lying, all that kind of stuff, except when it comes to China. I believe them 100% when it comes to China. So, farewell. Go in peace. Oh, man, that was a lively 10 minutes just there. We had a bunch of fascist spammers and then Luminal Man coming in. So you trust China's state media? No, I trust the nations surrounding China. I trust that there are people who have gone into China. Here's a good one, actually. This is usually fairly convincing. There is an organization in Italy, 3 research organizations in Italy. Italy releases research report on Xinjiang issues. The U.S. seeks geopolitical benefits in the name of human rights. So this is 3 research institutions in Italy: the Italy Institute of Politics, Society and Economics, the Italian Institute of International Diplomacy, and the Italian Eurasian Mediterranean Research Center. Their conclusion... either in Xinjiang or elsewhere in China, a series of job opportunities. We have no evidence to prove these accusations. This is the fact, right? Like, literally research institutions in Italy going in. I don't know what to tell you about. Like, this is evidence. Like, I base my opinions on evidence, right? I don't listen to the CIA. I don't listen to liars, right? People who systematically lie. Anyone who isn't a communist is a fascist to you? Obviously not. Like, obviously not. They have both pro-China and anti-China. SMP is one of the better sources because they're unbiased. I love how pro-fascist individuals end up losing the debate, as they always do. I mean, if you're not interested in evidence, bud, like, why are we talking? Right? Like, I'll even go so far. Here, you can read it yourself. Like, stop listening to the CIA, bud. Like, it's real clean. It's real easy. I'm glad that there are people in the world like Jesse who are pushing on this issue of the basic income, who are speaking with such passion, who are trying to improve the society that they live in. Something like this is an absolutely beautiful project. Quite the night, Alan. You bet. Good to see you, bud. Glad to see that you're here. Yes, quite the night. Well, it's not hard. It's not hard to win when you have the truth. Like, it's not hard to win when you have the truth. That's just what it comes down to, right? Like, people can say what they like, but if you've got the truth, it's not hard to win. Did you hear that Meng Wanzhou? I did not hear this. Meng is... She's the one that is arrested. There you go. Meng Wanzhou believed to have left Canada after BC court drops extradition case. That's good news for That's good news for relations between Canada and China. I know that, like, the reality is like the whole two Michaels conversation that came up because of this, that I forget if it was that Meng got picked up and then the two Michaels got picked up, or if it was the two Michaels and then Meng got picked up. I can't remember the order of that. But all of that was tied in together. And then China moved forward and indicted those guys because they were spies, right? And I believe one of them was a straight-out drug dealer, like selling meth in China, which, I mean, China has a pretty long history of opium abuse, right? So, like, you don't need to think too hardly about why the Chinese. Public class Dice, how you doing today, bud? I don't think I've seen you in here. Man, we're very popular all of a sudden. I'm glad to see it. We're getting to the end of it, dude, so I don't know. I think I might need to be succinct. But what do I think about China suspending game development? I don't think they haven't been suspending game development. It's that they're banning. The second thing is banning minor. I mean, I could be corrected about the game development point, but banning minors from playing video games as well as effeminate men from TV. Again, I don't know enough about the effeminate men comment or the game development comment, but the banning minors thing really penetrated. And it looks to me like China is, because they're a more traditionalist society and because I think they're following the science on this, that there is a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but there is a fair amount of science coming out saying that exposure to screens in youth and video games on youth can really alter what's going on, right? And I understand what you're saying there, public class, by saying I don't support America, but China doesn't seem any better. The difference between America and China is that China is building while America is bombing. That's the difference. That China is building inroads and using diplomacy and attempting to create peaceful arrangements in not only its own society but the societies around it, while America is literally bombing the shit out of everybody. So don't get me wrong, I have a keen eye on China at all times, but I haven't seen them do anything as egregious as the war in the Middle East, for example. Like, I haven't seen them do anything on that kind of scale. Like, America is literally embroiled in a 20-year war in the Middle East, where they've spent over $2 trillion in Afghanistan alone. The Gaza Strip genocide, the Yemeni genocide, like, it's don't get me wrong, like, China is big, and it could turn the corner and become like an imperialist state just like America is. But at this stage in the game, what I see them doing is building infrastructure. And if that is what they are going to do, is build infrastructure and build and try to leave something for the next generation that isn't just a wasteland, then yeah, I'm more interested in that. I'm more interested in how we build than how we bomb. And that to me is why I don't speak so condemningly of China. I leave that to the CIA. Because we've got enough people condemning China. I'm actually quite fond of China. I don't know why it's such a bad idea to be fond of your neighbors. Why is it such a bad idea to look at another civilization and think well of them? Because at the end of the day, they are a large 1.6 society. China isn't communist. It's more capitalist than America. I definitely disagree with that. Because in America, the capitalists have taken over the political system, right? China, the political system has not been taken over by the capitalist class. And very explicitly. Like, I mean, there are things that Xi Jinping is doing now that would be unthinkable in a capitalist society, right? That the capitalist class owns the political system in America. I mean, you don't get much more capitalist than that. Whereas the Chinese system is still responsive to the needs of the people, which is why the people of China are actually quite in favor of their political system, unlike the Americans. They have literal sweatshops and a lower minimum wage in America. But the difference there is that the The Chinese people are literally coming out of poverty, like grinding, eating dust poverty, and they are increasing the quality of their life. So like the people of China understand that what they were doing was difficult. Like they know that what they were doing was difficult, and they faced it as if they were facing a war effort. Right? There's a big Made in China movement that exists in China. Right? There's a big Made in China movement that exists in China because they're quite proud of the fact that they as a people went into those factories and worked those jobs and became the manufacturing base for the world, because they knew that this is how that they were going to improve the quality of life for not only themselves but their children in the future. Like we here in the West don't really understand that the Chinese people are moving together. Right? We're so used to this combative conversation, this combative relationship, and a corrupt government and corrupt institutions, that the idea that the Chinese can actually build something together and move forward together is incredibly foreign to us. It's very difficult for us to understand that. It just seems like talk about high-speed rail and everything's nothing but showing off. I would... Okay, dude, like, the Belt and Road Initiative is anything but just showing off. Like, you really do need to understand this. If you want to understand what's happening politically around China, you have to understand this. This is the Belt and Road Initiative, okay? That this is high-speed rail, Beijing, Lazhou, right? All of these places here. This is rail that can go up to, in some places, 600 kilometers per hour. It is an enormous, enormous project. As you can see, it goes up into Russia, over here through Minsk into Europe. Just recently, literally days after the Americans withdrew from Afghanistan, the Chinese are building rail into Afghanistan so that they can connect it to the already existing rail that they have in Iran, which will go up to the rail that they have in Turkey, thereby connecting the entire continent. Right, the land continent as you can see, they're also connecting trade routes by sea to get into Africa. They would love to send a trade route through here, of course, but that would mean intersecting with Israel. So that's very difficult for them to do politically. So instead, they're going to create origin points here on the African continent and put the rail through here as well. This is what I'm saying when I'm saying building, and it is anything but showing off. This is a significant project to alleviate poverty, not only in their own culture and country, but in countries that have recently experienced massive scale war, like Afghanistan and Iran and Iraq. This is enormous, enormous, enormous project. Hey, Frank, how you doing today, bud? But China has been the world's sweatshop for decades. That is true. Like, I mean, I'm never going to deny that China has become the manufacturing base for the world, right? And as China is moving forward and gathering wealth and gathering strength, they are as they're gathering strength, they're constantly improving the quality of life for their own citizens, and they're doing it on purpose, and they're doing it by mandate. Like, again, the Chinese people are moving forward together as a people. They understand what's happening, right? That unlike us, who are victimized by a corrupt corporate political arrangement that are constantly suppressing our wages and grinding us back down, the Chinese are coming up, and they understand what's happening, right? They're part of it. They understand that's the situation. And if you like Xi Jinping, right? Xi Jinping, I mean, he made the recent announcements towards his left turn to socialism while wearing Mao's uniform, right? So the Chinese see things in dynastic ways. They have 100-year economic system. Unlike America, where it switches back and forth between like two crazed groups of capitalists, the Chinese experience is a trajectory where one leader passes a baton to another leader, and it's understood that we are on a path together. And I think it's something to be admired, not degenerated. And like, don't get me wrong, I wish that the Chinese didn't live in poverty in the first place. but that's the reality. Like, they went through like what's called 100 years of humiliation, right? 100 years of humiliation, where they were the poor man of Asia is what they were called. They were the kicking boy of Asia. Everybody shit on them. They were an extremely poor country. The Japanese literally invaded and dominated and controlled them. The British were sending opium into China, dominating it. It was like a feudal theocracy at one point. And then the Communist Party was able to throw all of those forces off, protect the citizens of China, and actually erect a democratic system that is steadily improving the lot of the Chinese citizens. Have they had to make hard choices during that period of time? Absolutely. Absolutely. But we shouldn't pretend like these guys are living in like the same kind of society we currently have. They are coming from extraordinary poverty and extraordinary circumstances, and they're doing it together all at once. And it's and of course you can lay criticisms down, but those criticisms should be rooted in the reality of the history and the reality of what's going on in the country, and the reality of what it is to be a human and what it is to be alive. But I understand your skepticism, public. Like, I do. Like, I never ever denigrate anybody for coming in and being skeptical of China. I get a little miffed when people dig their heels in a little bit and get a little, especially when they get racist about things. That's where I get really angry. There you go. Michael Korvig, Michael Spavor, freed from China after Meng Wanzhou released. What? Good. That's good for all relations. That's a diplomatic victory for everyone involved. So hopefully we can move on from it. China appears to be trying to use capitalism as a tool, certainly a dangerous game to play, but American capitalism is a decline, which breaks towards fascism or socialism. Well, Loaf, the analogy I use is that if you think of capitalism as a fire, right? Like, fire is useful, right? If you're in a log cabin, you want to have a fireplace, right? Like, you want fire to be in a fireplace or in an oven where there's a grate. You want to interact with it with tools and all this kind of stuff. But the American capitalists have said, fire is useful. Fire, you can heat the place and there's food. So if fire is so useful, let's let it out of the fireplace. And then the invisible hand of the fire will decide what gets to stay. That to me is the difference. Whereas the Chinese are taking the fire and keeping it in the fireplace and keeping it well contained and keeping it controlled, right? And ensuring that it doesn't leap out of the fireplace and burn the log cabin down. With how much the West lies about the USSR, I wouldn't be surprised if the genocide in 1930s Germany never happened either. Are you talking about the Holocaust, bud? Are you talking about the Holocaust, dude? I think that there's lots of evidence to suggest that the Holocaust happened, bud. Like, there's lots of evidence. And if we look at what China has accomplished in the best few decades compared with the U.S. and the West has done, is staggering. It can't be denied. Yeah, places like China, and it's going to get more obvious, Soviet. Like, it is going to get more obvious. Okay, guys, I'm at the end. It's been a great stream. Glad to see Jesse on. Hope you get Floyd in soon. It would be nice to talk to Floyd. Good night. Good night to you as well, DM. I'm glad you're feeling better, bud. What an active stream that was in the last half hour, right? Always remember, guys, you are divine beings standing in divine energy. These capitalists gaslight us by spending hundreds of billions of dollars to convince us something else is going on. Don't let them. Good luck. We're going to need it.